All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 83. Thank you guys so much for waiting patiently, as always, taking time out of your life to come hang out with me and listen to me talk about video game stuff, probably rant. We're certainly going to be doing some ranting today, ranting about some stuff. So, yeah, really appreciate every week those of you who show up at the beginning and wait here patiently. I appreciate every single person, obviously, who tunes into the podcast, who supports the channel, but, you know, especially seeing you guys that are always here no matter what on time. You're the real deal, backbone of the channel. Thank you so much. As you can see, the theme is to be thankful and eat pie, right? So, yeah, hopefully you'll notice a couple things here. I finally, after all this time, I was able to figure out, took long enough, right? 83 episodes into the podcast, but I figured out how to finally get the members scroll at the bottom of the podcast. That's something I've been wanting to do for a long time because my members are very important to me, and I feel like I've really been slacking big time on you know, giving my members what they deserve, and this still isn't enough, but I like to think it's a nice little boost, you know, to help make members feel better and more special, if that makes sense. So I feel like they deserve that. But anyway, yeah, so enjoy that. Let me see. I want to talk to you guys about what we're going to be discussing today. Before I do that, we have a super chat from, well, let me see your name. I know you're here all the time, man. KD, there you go. You're saying, Big MBG, hope everything's great with you. We need your thoughts. You said thoughts, but I know you meant thoughts on Battlefield 2042 launch and how it seems like no one's learned from Cyberpunk. Stay blessed. Yes. Dude, thank you for bringing that up right off the bat, because that's going to be a huge theme during today's podcast, basically talking about how last year, you know, at the end of 2020, it was already a crazy year and also exciting with the launch of the PS5, but CD Projekt Red comes out with Cyberpunk and it's a colossal disaster, like the likes of which we've never really seen before. And I remember that when we were talking about that, during that time, it was pretty much like, well, hey, if there's a silver lining here, if there is at least one positive we can potentially extract from this travesty, it's that publishers will learn from Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red, and just, you know, showing you, you know, that you can't just rush a game out. I mean, Cyberpunk is a very extreme example, but yeah, we'll get into that. We're going to talk about the GTA trilogy. We'll talk about Battlefield 2042. It's interesting. I think Battlefield 2042 for me is also interesting because I originally was very excited when I saw it, and I was like, this is probably going to be a day one purchase. And flash forward, now I'm not even going to buy it, you know? So we'll talk about that. Grits, you're saying, why do you hate Microsoft and Xbox so much? That's a good question, Grits. That's a good question. I don't know that I hate them. I think that a lot of my opinions are perceived as hatred. I think hatred is a bit much. Like, to hate something means that there's just nothing there at all that you even remotely like. And that's just not the case with Xbox. However, my thing with Xbox is that I just am not feeling the same way that most people are. And I feel like I reiterate this every time Xbox comes up, where it's like, you know, right now people are super high on Xbox because they have Halo Infinite coming soon. Apparently, we might talk about Halo Infinite at some point as well, because apparently Microsoft is planning to do a stealth drop on the 20th anniversary of Xbox of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. And it seems like I've been kind of following this a little bit, and it seems like this is actually something that's going to happen. And I got to admit, even as somebody who doesn't care about Halo, as somebody who's not really involved with Xbox, I got to say that that is a very awesome thing for Xbox or for Microsoft to be doing to pull that off. If they're able to pull it off smoothly, I got to give credit where credit's due. That is an awesome way to launch Halo Infinite's multiplayer, doing a surprise 20th anniversary Xbox drop of the free-to-play Halo Infinite. That is very cool. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. But I think some people will be, still kind of sitting there being like, but I want to play the campaign, especially those people who feel that they have to play the campaign before they play the multiplayer. That's probably going to drive them nuts. Okay, so I'm going to first of all do a little bit of house cleaning here. I want to ask you guys, those of you who are here right now, do me a big favor. If you enjoy the podcast, if you like the podcast, which I'm pretty sure you do because you're all here right now, very early on, please hit that like button for me if you haven't. Consider sharing the podcast out. By sharing it out, we can grow the community here. We can grow the audience and ultimately grow the podcast as well. So feel free to do that. And if you want to help support the channel directly, you can do so by becoming a channel member, donating Super Chat, all that good stuff. It's always appreciated. And before we get into today's topics, I want to give a big shout out to the Play Has No Limits Plus membership tier. This is the highest membership tier that's on offer. So big shout out to D. Luffy, Junior Jackson, Samuel Payne, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, PlayStation Pete, RU46, N2 Ray, iSiler 18, Chlorian A, Whiskey Gaming, and Anthony Ramos. Thank you guys so much. We also have the Play Has No Limits tier, the second highest tier. Really appreciate the support coming from Ryan Butcher, John Renzi, Black Waifus, Adrian D, AWS Asher, Zanarkan Blitzer, Ivanoa Kachofel, Space Gambler Jr., AJ Saeed, Rune Gasoden, JDTV, Sir Speaks a Lot, A Shorty Faye, Big Norman 0518, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, Sane JT, Brandon Chad Perez, and Adrian Lupton. Again, thank you guys so much for all you do for the channel here and the community. Really goes a long way, really means a lot. Okay, so with that being said, we are going to dive into the first topic. Now, I said last week, and I'm sure many of you remember this, that I was going to try a new format where I'm going to do 3 community submissions, and then I'm going to do my main topics, and then end with 3 more community submissions. What I realized is that I need to just be a little bit more loose with the overall structure of my podcast, because no matter how structured I try to make it, I seemingly never stay on the rails. And I think that's a good thing because I think that that's what makes the podcast more entertaining. So I do have a little bit of a structure. By that, I mean some topics we're going to be talking about, but there might be some things that happen over the course of the podcast today that are just kind of off the cuff and, may take some detours along the way. Can't guarantee that, but it's likely that at some point that will happen. Tyson Webb, you're saying, hey, MBG, how many months have I been subscribed? I can't look at that right now. When I actually go into my membership section on YouTube, it tells me how long everybody's been a member. When it comes to how long you've been subscribed to the channel, that I don't know if I can see that or not. But I know it's been a long time, Tyson Webb, so thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Okay, at this point, I want to think about the first topic I want to dive into. I mean, I want to talk about the PS5 being out for a year, but I have to angle this conversation a little bit differently. I think that people aren't really that interested in talking about the fact that the PS5 has been out for a year based off of the video I put out. Maybe it was just a bad video on my part, or some people were saying I just sounded tired or whatever, and I guess that's true sometimes. But what I really want to do is, I did a stream where we did an evaluation of the first year of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and I kind of want to go back to that briefly, but I also want to throw in the PS4 into the mix when we talk about this. MBG, did you read the Kotaku article about PS users not playing exclusives? It was absolutely ridiculous. They had the dumbest reasoning. Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're probably going to discuss at some point during the podcast, because you know what? Look, I'm going to be real right now. It's low tide out here. I know you guys feel it. I mean, obviously I'm a content creator. I'm feeling it, but it is low tide when it comes to PlayStation. PlayStation has basically flexed as hard as they possibly could in 2020, and they kept it going for most of 2021. But now we're entering that period where we're not really sure if PlayStation is going to be doing much else before the end of the year, or before 2022. We know that 2022 is going to be a colossal year for PlayStation, kicking it off with God of War on PC, but really kicking it off with Horizon Forbidden West. I mean, that's really when it's going to, the rubber's going to hit the road, right? So because it's low tide, I'm trying not to be too redundant, and I'm probably going to talk about that article because I absolutely agree with you. I mean, could you write a dumber headline if you tried? I feel like you couldn't. And that's not me being defensive. That's just me pointing out a fact. It's just a straight fact. Now, maybe when you go into the article, because it's obviously a clickbait article, when you go into it and you read the paragraphs that are typed up, maybe it'll make more sense, and maybe they do make a good point or two. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. We're probably going to read that at some point. Zay Very Rare, you're saying, good morning, ABG. I hope you have a great day, and whenever you get a chance, you need to play Sekiro. And thank you so much, man. I hope you and everybody else has a good day as well. A lot of people are saying that to me, and I think at some point it's going to happen. I don't want to promise anything because I always feel bad. I made that mistake in the past where I promised I would play a game and then I never got around to it, and some people were understandably upset. So I'm not going to promise anything. However, I'm going to maybe at some point play it, and maybe we could stream it. We'll have to see. But right now, I did... Believe it or not, I was thinking about maybe going back to Dark Souls and playing through the Dark Souls games because I'm so hyped about Elden Ring. We are going to talk about Elden Ring at some point over the course of this podcast because we are going to talk about the impressions. I was thinking about doing like a reaction video to somebody else giving their impressions because I never, I never got the code for Elden Ring. I haven't tried it yet. A lot of people were asking me if I did. I would have loved to. But I've been watching and consuming a ton of content regarding Elden Ring, and my God, I can't wait for this game. I really, really can. Somebody's saying Elden Ring Game of the Year 2022. I think it absolutely will give Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok a run for its money. I absolutely see it being nominated alongside those two. Because, it's obvious that Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, they're both going to be Game of the Year contenders for next year. But, let's talk about the first year of the PS5. Now, I originally had this stream titled PS5's Awesome First Year, but I kind of thought to myself, you know what? Maybe awesome is too big of a word, because all I was thinking to myself is, for as good as this year was, I'm looking at next year, and I'm looking at 2023, and I'm like, well, in 2022, we got Horizon, God of War, and probably some other surprises we don't know about yet. And then in 2023, we know at the very least we're getting Spider-Man 2. We know there's going to be other games in 2023 when we get to that point. And I'm thinking like, man, this really is just the start. So I decided to call it a strong first year and not an awesome, because I think the awesome word, that word needs to be reserved for really when we get the bigger games. I feel like I would have been able to call the first year of the PS5 truly awesome if Sony managed to get Horizon Forbidden West out the door before the end of the year. But you know what? Actually, this is where I'm talking about. I'm just going to go on a detour right now, and I'm going to rant a little bit because I you know what? I need to emphasize how Sony does it right. And you know what? This is going to sound crazy to some people, but I have some high praise for Microsoft right now, although not that high, but still some high praise. Now, first of all, I want to give Microsoft credit first only because Halo Infinite is dropping very soon. Okay, Halo Infinite is dropping this year. Now, I have to be a little bit 50-50 with the praise I'm going to give them, and I know some people are going to be like, of course you're going to be that way, MBG, because you're a PlayStation fanboy. Well, hear my reasoning first. I got to give Microsoft credit where credit's due, because you know what? They listened to the feedback. Thank you. I appreciate that. Last year, they were ready to, for some reason, attempt to release Halo Infinite in the shocking state it was in, and the feedback was insane and over the top, which it needed to be, because that's the only way you seemingly get the message across. They listened to it and they said, you know what? We're going to delay it a year. And there you go. There you go. We need more of that. I know delays suck and nobody likes them, but man, are they necessary. And so I got to give Microsoft credit for that. However, I do have to take away a little bit of that credit because Halo Infinite is still not a fully finished product. You know, they're not going to have co-op. They're not going to have Forge. And 343 made it clear that, look, this date is locked in. We are hitting this date. And if we have to cut some things, we're going to do it. Now, that's okay, in my opinion, as long as the game is where it needs to be, is, you know, functioning properly, looks better than it did. You got the campaign. As long as the campaign's smooth and it's good, as long as the multiplayer is smooth and it's good, you got to bite the bullet here, but that's where I think Microsoft, hey, we have Game Pass, Halo Infinite's multiplayer, it's free to play, so hopefully you guys won't mind, waiting for that. And so I got to say, Microsoft isn't asking for full price. That's the point. They're not asking for full price. They're not demanding full price for Halo Infinite, so I think they get a little bit more of a pass if some features have to come later. So I got to give Xbox credit there. But where I really also got to give credit is to Sony for absolutely just being able to read the damn room. Okay? Hey, Horizon Forbidden West, would it have been ideal for Sony to drop Horizon Forbidden West at a time like now? Or maybe back in September? I think the answer to that is yes. Because if you look at the position PlayStation's in right now, the reality is they don't have anything. There's just nothing dropping for PlayStation this month, next month, and the only thing they seemingly have for January is God of War for PC, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But they decided to delay Horizon. KD, again, you're saying that top played game list, mostly mainstream multiplayer games that get played for hundreds of hours. 2 single-player games that can be beat in 10 to 30 hours, making that list is impressive, in my opinion. I 100% agree with you, KD. I have another rant that's locked and loaded for that topic later once we do get to that. But, I have to give Sony credit as well, because this, in my opinion, is what separates Sony from the rest. Okay, this is why I look at Sony the way I do, and I know people are like, you're just a fanboy, and I don't care, you can call me a fanboy, and maybe I am, but you know what? I can live with that, because when I know that Sony is like, you know what? We can't release Horizon Forbidden West yet. We're not going to meet the deadline. We're not going to be able to get this game out. And, maybe investors are going to be a little bit unhappy about that, shareholders. And of course they're going to be, because they don't want to see delays. But what Sony can promise is this is going to be for the best, though, because when we drop this game, not only is the quality going to be through the roof, but it's going to be a fully finished product. And I feel like I absolutely need to put emphasis on that now, because I am just so sick and tired. It frankly makes me hate gaming. It really does. I know that sounds like a loaded statement, but it really gets to me. And seeing what's happening with games like Battlefield 2042, when I see what's happening with the GTA trilogy, it just drives me nuts that this is still something we're seeing so consistently from big publishers. Like, do they not get it? Just finish the game. Make the game. If you want people to buy your game, let it get to that point. Let it cross the finish line before you're shoving it out there, And I feel like when you look at games like Call of Duty, because I saw some people being like, well, you're talking about Battlefield, what do you think about Call of Duty? The thing about Call of Duty is it kind of suffers from a different problem, where it's a formula that doesn't deviate at all. There's no innovation, there's no real shakeup, and they just play it safe like a sports title where it's just very, very incremental. And because they're focused so little on actually innovating, they're more focused on just make sure the game is ready to launch. And even if that means it basically is like, well, isn't this just like the same game we released last year? Well, yeah, but at least, it's functioning, it's working. You see what I'm saying? It's like, Sony is attempting to have their cake and eat it too. That's the point. And I got to give them credit for that, because that's not easy to achieve. And the biggest sacrifice that gamers have to make to get something like that is you have to wait. You have to be patient. If you want to have your cake and eat it too, you have to be willing to be patient, and you have to be willing to not give money to broken, unfinished products. That's the reality, We have William You're saying 2022 is going to be the toughest Game of the Year fight in video game history. Elden Ring, God of War, Starfield, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Avatar, Pragmata, Kirby 3D. I have to agree, man. If every one of those games you just listed actually launches next year and doesn't get delayed out of 2022, it's going to be a brutal fight. But man, it's going to be fun though, right? And you can't really complain about getting such good games in a, well, I mean, depends on how short, like the time period is between them, for like Elden Ring and Horizon. Like, come on, please, somebody move up, move away, do something, get away from each other. It's too close. The Kate Crusader, you're saying, my man MBG with the passion, LOL. Can we get MBG to 100K by Christmas? Also hit that like button, guys. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, hit that like button for me. I think the only way I would be able to get to 100K before Christmas is if Blue Box Game Studios came out of nowhere and Hassan pulled off his mask and it's secretly Kojima and it is Silent Hill. Not going to happen, but I'm pretty sure that's the only real way I would get to 100K in such a short period of time. But I appreciate it, man. I hope we can get there. I'm looking forward to it. If it takes longer than expected, then I'm okay with that. Again, it's kind of anything that highlights, you got to be patient. Anything worth having, anything worth doing and pursuing that is meaningful, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I just felt like I really had to go on this tangent because, I don't really like the narrative right now. Like November, what's today? Today's the 14th. November 14th, 2021 compared to November 14th, 2020. I know that's a whole year apart, but man, the narrative that we are seeing right now is absolutely, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call it unfair because I don't think it's maybe it's a little bit unfair, but I think it just highlights how quickly people forget. And I don't like that. You're saying you've been subscribed to me since 9K, been a wild ride. That is insane. If you've been subscribed to my channel since 9,000 subs, that's definitely a wild ride for sure. Hopefully it'll get even crazier, right? In a good way. But I just feel like people are not giving Sony enough credit. And I don't want to make it sound like, hey, you need to shill for Sony and you need to bow down. No, not like that. But I mean, really think about the first year of the PS5. I want you to try to go back to the launch of the PS5. This was literally during a global pandemic, okay? The thick of a global pandemic. And Sony was like, we have this entire lineup, and these games were finished. They were fully playable. They weren't telling you to wait for this and wait for that. They were done and ready to go. Sony was absolutely locked and loaded. Now I know, again, we're a year removed from that. Okay? We're a year removed from that, and I understand that. So it's not like we should be sitting here, I'm going to celebrate Demon Souls and this launch lineup a year after launch. It's not about that. It's just about understanding that after that launch, Sony kept it going pretty well, right? Like they're dropping Returnal, they're dropping Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, they're dropping Kena Bridge of Spirits, they're dropping Deathloop, and I know that there were other games in between there, Death Stranding Director's Cut, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, if you count them, Final Fantasy VII Integrate. The point is there was always content dropping. And the only reason I'm saying all this is because I feel like it's just too easy. It's too easy for people now to just turn around and be like, yeah, well, Sony sucks right now. It's like, well, yeah, they suck right now, like literally in this moment in the eyes of some people because they're not dropping anything, because the only game that they had left to drop, they had to delay. You know what I mean? We have iSiler18. Member for 18 months. Thank you so much, man. That's a long time. Play Has No Limits Plus as well. You're saying, seeing Kojima tweet a lot about MGS2 hits me hard. 20 years. Where does the time go? Please remember this game and not the GTA. Please remember this game and don't give it the GTA trilogy treatment, LOL. I think that's what you're trying to get across. And I agree, man. It is crazy to think that MGS2 is 20, man. I mean, you want to talk about a game that withstood the test of time? Maybe not necessarily in control schemes because it's a little bit outdated for sure, but in terms of the overall themes and just the everything it was doing and presenting, absolutely a game that withstood the test of time and easily one of the greatest games ever made, hands down. All the mainline MGS games, in my opinion, are amazing, but MGS2 is definitely like a special game. It really is. So yeah, 20 years, man. I'm interested to see what may end up happening with the Metal Gear Solid IP going forward. So thank you for that, buddy. I don't want to. I'm not trying to make it sound like, hey, Sony gets a free pass, but come on. I mean, I am going to give Sony a little bit of a pass because it's like they've been on top of things, man. They've been delivering consistently, even during a time like it bothers me. And it bothers me that people are just so willing to not necessarily be excited about, well, hey, Microsoft is doing this and Microsoft is doing that. Absolutely. No, you're right. Like right now, Xbox is doing a great job at getting gamers excited and giving them a reason to pay attention. And I give them a lot of credit for that because like that's what people have been wanting and waiting for. But not everybody is thinking like this. But for those people who are basically like, yeah, well, I guess Sony just isn't doing anything. Sony sucks now. Like I said, they're done, man. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like Sony has earned a little break here, okay? Just because they don't want to rush out Horizon Forbidden West during a holiday period. Like, you kidding me? Like, come on. Let's not forget how vastly different the first year of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X were. Okay, let's not forget that. Xbox is now just getting started. I mean, they're really getting revved up now, like almost a year later, and I'm not saying that as a way to like take anything away from Xbox. If anything, it's just more to drive home the point that when I say PS5 has had a strong first year, that's all I'm trying to say. Even compared to the PS4, it absolutely had a strong first year, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I really would have loved to have get Horizon now, but I absolutely would not have wanted that to happen if it meant, well, it might be glitchier than you expected. It might be buggier. We might have to patch the game like 5 times over the next 3 months. Like, no. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that. I'll wait for that. I'd rather have nothing now and wait for that, But I just think that people need to just be fair. That's all. And you know what? Most people are. Most rational people are. Most rational people will come out and say, I mean, Xbox got off to a rocky start. Wasn't the best first year at all. Sony got off to a very strong start, and now Sony's finally slowing down, and now Xbox is picking up. And so it's like, credit to both of them for doing that. But then you had these people, who I'm talking about. They're all over, where they're like, yo, PlayStation is in the gutter. They've been in the gutter. They don't know what they're doing. They're done. It's over. Xbox is king. And it's like, what? I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I know people are hyped about Forza Horizon 5, but what? Come on. Let's take it easy now. Let's take it easy. Let's calm down. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. And I'll pump the brakes too, because I do want to be a little bit more critical of Sony. I think that that's important as well. We have we have Space Gambler Jr., member for 10 months. Play has no limits. Thank you so much, buddy. You're saying, what's up, MBG? If you haven't checked out Guardians of the Galaxy, you have to check that game out. It's pretty damn good. And you know what? I am going to at some point, because that's a game, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel. I'm certainly not the biggest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. In fact, this was a game that I was not planning to engage with at all. But there you go. This is how you do it, right? Like, you make a game, that being Guardians of the Galaxy, you make it a full single-player title, and you just make a solid, finished, complete product, right? And then you release it. And I hope the game does well. I mean, it probably will, because it's Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy, but I hope it really does well. So that way it can send a clear message like, make more of that. It doesn't necessarily have to be Marvel, but just the idea of the way the game dropped, right? Like, Here's a complete finished game, single player. There you go. Like, if you're going to pay, we're going to ask you $60 for this game. And it's, I mean, look, I haven't played it, but based off of what I can tell, it's certainly worth the $60. Like, nobody's complaining about this game being buggy or unfinished. I think the biggest complaint I've seen about it is from a technical perspective, where if you're playing it on the next gen consoles, you pretty much have no choice but to choose between 1080p 60 FPS or I think like a dynamic 4K at 30 FPS. Like, there's no in between, you know what I mean? And that does kind of suck a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, the point is, it's a finished product. Got to give them credit for that. Jack Rabbit, you're saying in October, Sony beat the Switch's 33-month console streak in the US. Sony isn't doing nothing like some want to think. And that's what bothers me, man, is like, people are out here. Look, it's just the nature of how things work. You know, a lot of people have been coming to me because I am a PlayStation-focused channel. And right now, you know, Xbox is getting most of the headlines and the attention, as they should be. They're the one, you know, they're releasing a new games. But a lot of people are like coming to me like, MBG, don't you think that maybe like people are getting a little bit, they're giving Xbox a little too much credit too quickly? Like, did they really make it? And I think that's just the nature of when you're down so long. And again, I'm not saying this as a shot to Xbox. I think even Xbox fans would agree with this. When you're down so long, when you finally get like that win, and I mean like a real W, like, this is a win, man. It's like it just feels that much better. You know, it feels maybe like a bigger win than it otherwise would be. What it reminds me of, and I know this analogy is going to sound pretty bad because people are going to be like, wow, man, you just completely tore into Xbox. But I just think it's a good analogy. It's like a team that's playing. It's like an NFL team that's playing, right? And they've just pretty much lost like pretty much almost every game of the season, like almost every game. And people are just like, wow, this team is just horrible. But then they like come together maybe towards the end of the season where it's like they just won like 2 or 3 games in a row. And it's like, well, you had like one of the worst seasons ever, you know what I mean? And it was pretty terrible. But because they brought it together at the end and they got those 2 or 3 wins at the end, even though they're out for the rest of the season, it at least gives people a lot of hope, and it makes them feel like, yo, maybe we have a chance now, right? Like, we have a chance. Maybe next season, our team proved that they can bring it together and they can be effective and they can win. Even though they spent most of the time losing, they finally got to that point. I feel like that's kind of what we're looking at. You're saying, MBG, this analogy is terrible. Well, maybe it doesn't fit perfectly, but I think most people understand what I'm getting at there. And so, you know, talking about the PS5 having a strong first year, again, I know I've already brought up Xbox quite a few times, but it feels like it's kind of impossible not to when we're having these conversations. But truthfully speaking, just from my perspective, my opinion, I absolutely think the start to the PS5 generation has been, I think, the strongest start we've seen so far. Space D, you're saying, to be honest, Ratchet and Clank and Returnal were very forgettable. You know, I do understand what you're saying, man. Like, I do understand what you're saying. I feel like games like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Returnal, they make a huge splash when they drop, but they don't really make a big ripple effect. For me, Returnal had a much bigger ripple effect than Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I do think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I feel like saying it's forgettable is kind of like, it's taking too much away from it. But I do understand that, like, I played that game. I put about 30 to 35 hours into it. Maybe, I think it was between 25 and 30 hours to get the platinum. And yeah, you know, once I was done, it was like, okay, like, I got the experience and I moved on from that. I would be lying if I said that, man, I'm constantly thinking about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I'm not. But when I do think about it, I think about it fondly, but I find myself thinking a lot more about Returnal, and that to me had more of a ripple effect because I guess my experience and my time engaging with Returnal was very different than Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank felt like, kind of a breeze in comparison. You know what I mean? I feel like it was kind of a breeze, just a very relaxed, enjoyable experience. Returnal was intense, man. Like, I went through some emotions playing Returnal, and it really kind of pushed me to my limit of like, how much do I actually like this game? I'm gonna find out, because I'm so pissed off with it right now. I want to smash my controller, and I just don't want to do this. And there were literally times, I kid you not, where I was like, ranting to my wife, and I'm like, I can't do this. This game's too hard. Like, I can't do this. And I would stop playing for a little bit, and I'm like, I do that thing that everybody does at one point where I started yelling out loud. I'm like, I'm never playing this again. I like the game. I beat the game. It's fine, but I'm never playing this again. It's breaking me. I'm done. And then after a day, I'd go back and be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try again. And it was really a test of like perseverance and getting the platinum for Returnal was a very trying experience, but memorable. And overall, looking back on it, I feel like that's kind of what made the game very memorable to me. And that is not the same experience I had with Ratchet and Clank. What made Ratchet and Clank more memorable to me is just the entirety of the experience, where it's like, yeah, it was just a fun time, and it really looked good, and it was awesome to look at, and it had some solid gameplay, and I just enjoyed it. But Returnal's more like, man, that was like a hardcore moment for me with like gaming, where it's like, I don't recall ever, like the last time I felt like I had to push myself through a game like that was when I played it was like my first time playing Dark Souls, and I'm like, I love this game, but it's literally destroying me, But I do understand what you're saying, Space D. I think it's fair to say, I think it's you're saying MBG Ratchet and Clank is for the longtime fans, dude. Believe it or not, man, I was there. I was there for Ratchet and Clank 1 and 2, and I think the third one. I forget the names of the games, but I was there, man. I was young, but I was there. On my PS2, I was playing Ratchet and Clank originally. So I was always a Ratchet and Clank fan. I just kind of fell off of it. And it was very nostalgic in a way. It is crazy to see how far the game has come. KD, you're saying Microsoft gets too much credit. Forza Horizon 5 is amazing, but after a long year of nothing, Halo is launching incomplete. Flight Simulator, come on. Look at the scoreboard. I hear what you're saying, man. I hear what you're saying. That's what I mean. It's where it's like, if you're looking at the scoreboard and maybe Microsoft isn't putting up as many touchdowns, maybe they had, there's some field goals, and now they're finally getting some TDs. That's what I mean, is like they may not be ahead in terms of the scoreboard, like they're not winning yet, but now their chances of being able to potentially win have increased dramatically. And I think that that's why people are giving them a lot of credit, because it's kind of just like the underdog thing, right? Like when you see the underdog, people were the same way towards Sony. Coming from the PS3 to the PS4, like people rallied around Sony because they wanted to see them succeed. They were rooting for Sony. And I feel like, now that Sony's been on top for so long, I think a lot of people have naturally turned against them, where it's like, power corrupts and whatnot. That's, just a common theme in life. And I think that some people, for as dramatic as it sounds, feel like Sony's been corrupted because of their success. They're arrogant now. They just don't care. It's all about this, and they're anti-consumer, and it's all about just the big AAA hits, and they're more focused on movies and stuff. And I'm like, well, I think you might be seeing it wrong, or you're not seeing the full picture. But I do think that is like a general sentiment that a lot of people currently have towards PlayStation. So I hear what you're saying, KD. Hickzock, you're saying, is Forza getting a free pass? It's the same game with a lot of microtransactions. I do agree it is at least polished and finished. Love PS5 and MBG's channel. Cheers. I mean, again, man, like I don't want to keep bringing it back to this, but I mean, it's difficult for me to say, oh yeah, Forza Horizon 5, it's the same game. Right? Because I like the Forza formula. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad formula or that there's something wrong with it, but I have to kind of agree with that to an extent, where it's like, I don't know, man. The reality is, though, I think people will give again, Forza Horizon 5, more of a pass this time because it's not just Forza. I said this in a video that is no longer available, but I basically said like Forza Horizon 5 like did the heavy lift. It really did. It did the heavy lift for Xbox where it got the momentum, it got it going, got it off the ground. But it absolutely cannot carry Xbox itself. And now it's going to be up to Halo Infinite and 343 to really kind of like put their back into it as well and help do the lifting to really help elevate Xbox, because that's my thing is like you can praise Forza all day, every day. You can tell me how Forza Horizon 5 changed your life and it's doing all these amazing things for you, but there's no denying that, not that long ago, I remember Xbox fans were celebrating Forza Horizon 4 launching in the Game Pass. And I'm like, go play Forza Horizon 4 and then go play Forza Horizon 5. Like there are differences for sure, but it's not enough by itself. And so I guess what I'm just trying to say to answer your question, Hicksock, is that I think Forza will certainly get a free pass. Like I think it already has, but I think that if Halo can deliver, for Xbox, then I think that Xbox successfully, basically had an incredible end of the year in the eyes of gamers and most people. For me, again, I don't plan on playing these games, at least not now. I don't plan on playing Halo, but that's how I'm seeing it from my perspective. Savage Draft 1, you're saying, honestly, that analogy was perfect. If someone can't understand it, then there's something wrong with them. Yeah, I kind of figured, I was like, man, I don't know, man. I think this dude's trolling a little bit. I thought that was a pretty good analogy too. I thought so too. And Savage Draft, again, you're saying, I personally can't understand how anyone can stand by Xbox when the last 8 years has been mediocre at best for them. I'll tell you why. It's because the biggest thing that changed, and again, I don't... So you're saying, did MBG play Forza Horizon 5 yet? But he's commenting on it like he played it for 10 hours. Well, look, man, the reality is I've consumed a lot of content regarding Forza Horizon 5, mainly because I'm trying to determine, like, do I want to dive into this game right now or can it wait? Because I'm playing other stuff right now. And between that and getting every single achievement in Forza Horizon 4, I get it. If you don't want to take everything I say with a grain of salt, I haven't played Forza Horizon 5, and I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than somebody who has. I don't know that, okay? I'm not trying to tell anybody they shouldn't be excited for Forza or they shouldn't play it. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's a great game. It looks amazing, right? I'm just trying to point out the realities that I think people... So here's a good example for you. I just did my PS5 year review. Now, I am somebody who has talked over and over again about how amazing the DualSense controller is. How this is a next-gen controller. I think it's amazing. I think this is what separates Sony from the competition in a significant way. And I think that this is the future of controllers. That's what I've said about it. But at the same time, I can also acknowledge the reality that there are plenty of people out there, maybe not you, maybe not me, but there are plenty of people out there who will get a DualSense in their hands and they'll just be like, I don't get it. It just feels like extra vibration. It just feels like extra rumble. It just, why are these triggers so hard to press down? I don't like that. That's the reality. It's not like, even though I think, dude, this is the future of controllers, this is truly a next gen iteration of the controller, there's going to be other people out there that for them, the reality is, it just feels like extra vibration, I feel like you have to kind of keep that same mentality when you're looking at a game like Forza Horizon 5. Like, you can think it's the greatest racing game ever made, but you can't pretend like it's not extremely similar and very much the same game in a lot of ways from the previous 4. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not 4, but like at least 4 and 3. That's all I'm saying. Like, it doesn't take away from it. It's just you have to understand that there are different viewpoints of different things. And it doesn't have to affect your perception and your enjoyment. But it's always good to be open-minded and see, but at least try to see both sides of the coin. All right? You're saying like every sequel. Exactly. I'm not saying it's just a thing that pertains to Forza Horizon 5. It's not. But this is the reality they're living in, MBG. Well, you know what? That's their reality. Not mine. That's theirs. And they're free to have that reality. Very Rare, you're saying there's nothing wrong with celebrating the small wins Microsoft has, but at some point you have to realize Xbox still has a lot to prove. And yeah, that's true. And so I feel like Very Rare, your super chat is a great way to kind of wrap this up so we can move on to the next topic. MBG, that could be said for GT7. In racing games, you can't change the gameplay. Well, that's what I'm saying. Keep in mind, what I just said about Forza 100% applies to GT7 as well. But when you're talking about the bigger picture, which is what we're focused on here, Forza, it's just like I said earlier, Forza Horizon 5 is not enough to carry Xbox. It is for a moment. But look at how PlayStation has carried itself. It's not just Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch single-handedly winning for PlayStation out here. And it's, again, they're playing as an elite team. It's not like there's one star player with a bunch of other really terrible players. And I'm not trying to say that that's what Xbox is, but the reality is, just like Very Rare said here, they have to prove themselves. You know what I mean? Playground Games is like that elite player that's out here, like practically single-handedly carrying the team. Now it's up to the other players, that being 343, Ninja Theory, Obsidian and stuff like that. Like, when they start releasing these games in Bethesda Studios, to really kind of show like we're elite players as well. Look at what we can do. And when that comes together, that's when you get the greatness. You know what I mean? That's really when you get the greatness. And I feel like the same cannot be said for PlayStation, where, who's sitting here saying, well, Sony Santa Monica has to prove themselves? What? No, they don't. They already did that. Well, maybe, not Naughty Dog. We know they don't have to prove themselves, right? What about Sucker Punch? Yeah, they just did that with Ghost of Tsushima. What about, I know, Housemark. They just did it. They just proved themselves. You know what I mean? Okay, what about, what about, I don't know, maybe Blue Point? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference. That's the point. We're looking at the bigger picture. And when you look at the bigger picture, there is a significant contrast that is easily identifiable. It doesn't mean it's a good, or it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it exists. You're saying Sony Ben still has to prove themselves. I agree mostly. I mostly agree. I loved Days Gone, but I also could see why a lot of people are like, I still don't think they did it yet. I still don't think Sony Ben did it. And I can agree with that. And so that's why I'm saying maybe their next game, they have to do, they don't want to be the weakest link. Nobody at PlayStation Studios, just like nobody that's part of Xbox Studios, doesn't want to be the weakest link. And if there are any studios that are okay with that, well, that's just only going to serve to drag it down. London Studio, I think, there's a lot of interesting stuff actually with Sony Studios. Not every studio has completely proven themselves. For example, London Studio, they're going to be working on a AAA game for like the first time, like a traditional AAA PlayStation 5 game for the first time in a long time. And they're going to have to prove something, they're going to have a lot to prove. They're going to, when you're going out there to bat against the elite or with the elite, it's tough, Space D, you're saying free pass. Forza Horizon 5 has a perfect formula of open world arcade racer and photorealistic graphics. Best looking game so far this gen. I think that's earned. You know what, Space D, you're right. I think we need to clarify what we mean by free pass. By free pass, we're really, again, you have to try to think more broadly. We're talking about the entirety of Xbox. You know what I mean? Like the entire reputation of Xbox. You're right about everything you just said about Forza Horizon 5. It is a perfect formula. It's one that just needs to be reiterated upon, right? And the graphics look incredible, and that is earned. Playground Games absolutely has earned all the praise in the world that they've gotten. But Playground Games by themselves is not enough. That's what we mean by basically like people being like, oh, well, look, Forza Horizon 5 was great. Xbox made the big comeback. Boom, we're done. Pack it up. Go home. We're good. We're good. We proved everything we need to prove. No. You still got more proving to do. That's all we're saying. So hopefully that makes sense. Because again, I'm not trying to make it sound like we're taking anything away from Forza Horizon 5. Absolutely not. Rashdan V2, you're saying, I don't get the double standard when God of War Ragnarok is extremely similar to 2018 with tweaks like Forza Horizon 5. What happened to if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Well, because again, it falls in line with what I'm saying. God of War Ragnarok is one of those games where there's a little bit less hype around Ragnarok than there was for God of War 2018. And that it should be obvious why that is. It's because God of War 2018 was like, knock the door down. What's going on? Who is this? What's going on here? All right. That was God of War 2018. Now God of War Ragnarok is like, well, we know what this is now. And we've been enjoying it. And we're ready to see what they're going to do next. That's what that is. You know, and it's true that it is similar to Forza Horizon 5 pretty much to a T in that extent, you know, to that extent, where it's about refinement and iteration and continuation, you know what I mean, of what is there. But the big difference, as I tried to point, and this is where I feel like it's not a double standard. I feel like this is where it's not a double standard. We're not just getting God of War Ragnarok. We're not just going to get Horizon Forbidden West. You know what I mean? Like we're getting games like Housemark. Not Housemark. Housemark isn't a game, but Returnal. And we're getting games. I was gonna say Deathloop, but I'm like, actually, that's technically a Microsoft game. So there you go. There's a top tier studio for Microsoft. I guess maybe a better example would be like Kena Bridge of Spirits. It's not a first party, but Ghost of Tsushima, I think, is a great example. We're a little bit removed from that, but we're getting games like Ghost of Tsushima alongside getting games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, you know? And I'm just saying that Sony Studios had the opportunity to prove themselves, and it could have went really poorly. Dude, Horizon Forbidden West could have sucked. Ghost of Tsushima could have sucked. There are some weirdos out there who actually think these games suck. But that's, you know, that happened. That's the point. Like, they did it. Love listening to MBG dancing around double standards. Dude, I'm not dancing around anything. I'm literally telling you that, yes, Forza Horizon 5. See, I didn't want it to divulge into this. Deteriorate into this. I'm not trying to make direct comparisons. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous to try to make a comparison to God of War Ragnarok and Forza Horizon 5. All right? Because do you want to know what will be very different about these games? For as samey as God of War Ragnarok looks, you know what will be different? The story told, the progression of that story, the way it unfolds. All right, that's going to be very different than anything you experience in Forza Horizon 5. It's difficult to make these type of comparisons, and frankly, it's useless. It's literally like trying to compare apples to oranges. If you're trying to make the point that, well, they're both sequels, they're both iterating, you are correct. You're not wrong about that. And I'm not knocking Xbox for that. I'm not knocking Playground Games for making another Forza Horizon. The only thing, and it's not even a knock, but the only thing I'm pointing out is that, okay, Xbox proved that they can make another great Forza Horizon game. What else can they make? Now, people are looking at Psychonauts 2, and I'll give them credit for that. Apparently, I was wrong about Psychonauts 2. That game's apparently Microsoft had a big hand in that game, and that's a great start. It's stuff like that, right? Flight Simulator, again, I don't have much to say about that, but we'll see. I told you guys, I think next year is the year for Xbox, where this is going to be critical for Xbox. I think that Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite is giving them the boost. Now it's up to them to really grab onto that mountain or that ledge and start climbing, start climbing. I think that that's what's happening right now. Games like Redfall, games like Starfield. So I'm not trying to dance around double standards. I know it'll come off that way no matter what I say, but there's nuance to everything I'm saying here. And it depends on what exactly you're choosing to focus in on. If you just want to say Forza Horizon 5 is a great game and that's the end of the story, and I love Xbox, dude, no problem, man. But if you then want to say, but, somebody like me, I'm going to say, well, yeah, Forza Horizon 5 looks like a great game and Xbox is doing good right now and they've been on a roll, but what else is there? You know what I mean? Like what beyond Forza Horizon 5, how's it looking compared to PlayStation? That's what I'm trying to say. All right, that's all it comes down to. Saying Gears of War, yeah, Gears has been pretty solid as well. Saying MBG, you give Xbox too much credit. Maybe I do, but it's just because I'm trying to be open-minded, man. That's all it is. Like when people, a lot of people get frustrated because they say I'm too hard on Xbox. I'm like, well, I can only feel the way I feel. I don't want to adopt other people's opinions and make them my own. I want to have my own opinions, and I do. But at the same time, I want to be able to listen to what people are saying and not bury my head in the sand and be like, oh no, because to me, I do not see the appeal of Halo Infinite literally at all. Okay. Like I just don't see it, but I'm hearing a bunch of people who like Halo, who've played Halo, and they're like, it's great, man. It's great. And I'm like, I'll believe you. I believe what you're saying, And I feel like that's kind of like, it doesn't mean I'm going to jump on it and be like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. No, but I believe it, Did you see that Xbox Twitter page was deactivated? No, I didn't see that. I didn't notice that. That's crazy. How long did that happen for? How long did that really happen? How do you do something like that? You like my hoodie, GNR? Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I love GNR. I like my favorite band. Let me see. Got a couple super chats. Siler saying sports games in general are literally the same. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough balance to achieve. When you find that winning formula, you want to keep iterating on it and refining it. But if you do it too much, too frequently, it then just becomes the same thing. You know what I mean? And nobody wants that to happen. By the way, guys, we have over 650 people here hanging out with me. Please do me a big favor and hit that like button for me. I would really appreciate that. Let's see if we can get up to 300 likes. I would really, really appreciate that. You're saying, who's GNR? It's Guns N' Roses. It's a band. They're not really making new music these days. They were big in the 80s and early 90s, but I'm positive you've heard at least a couple of songs of theirs. Let me see. Space D again, you're saying, yeah, but Ragnarok, God of War 2018.2 is okay. Free pass. Well, here's the thing about that, Space D. You have to understand when we talk about giving a free pass, because I feel like that's kind of what this is coming down to, like who gets a pass and who doesn't. The idea of PlayStation fans saying, dude, God of War Ragnarok, bro, game of the year 2022, that's going to happen no matter what, right? But there's going to be people that are like, it looks kind of the same though, right? The idea of giving a free pass, in my opinion, is based off of your expectation of what is being done outside of that and beyond it. I really do believe that, because no one was giving Sony a free pass when they put out the Order 1886. You remember that? Nobody was giving Sony a free pass. They're like, what is this? Like, this isn't good enough. Although a ton of untapped potential there, but nobody was giving them a free pass. However, it was great. Like, that was greatly mitigated. The amount of backlash that Sony would have received for a game like the Order 1886 was greatly mitigated by what they did with Bloodborne, with Japan Studio helping with that game. You see what I'm saying? And this is where it's literally like it takes more than just one. That's the point. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's the reason why God of War Ragnarok gets a free pass of like, yeah, it looks like a lot more of the same. Well, that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just like getting a lot more of the same anywhere else isn't a bad thing. But what else are they doing outside of that? And then and I've been following this, man. I see the job listings that PlayStation has. I see all the stuff they're working on. And I also look at what they've been doing for the past like 5 to 7 years, and you realize that they deserve a pass. Go ahead, reuse that animation, and it's fine that this sections of this game look extremely similar to the first one, because I know that you're in the process of also working on something brand new. A great example of this is it's very likely that Sony Santa Monica, aka Cory Barlog, okay, let's just be real. They kind of announced the game without announcing a game. Do you guys remember after the September showcase with PlayStation, they did an interview with Cory Barlog and they had to make the announcement, he's not directing the next God of War. And Cory Barlog was like, I can't talk to you yet about what it is I'm working on. It's because he's working on a new IP. Do you see what I'm getting at? Xbox is doing that. Xbox is doing that because the same thing can be said for Playground Games. They're working on Fable. It's not a new IP, but it may as well be. It's going to be a reboot. But the difference is we know Cory Barlog and what he can do with a third-person action-adventure game. And we have the utmost confidence and trust in him. Therefore, he doesn't need to prove himself. Sony Santa Monica does not need to prove themselves. Nearly to the same extent that a studio like Playground Games does, where it's like, yo, let's be excited for this Fable reboot. Look at what Playground Games does in the racing genre. But the question has yet to be answered. Can they do what they did for the racing genre for a fantasy RPG like Fable? We don't have the answer to that yet. And I feel like it's really important for me to make that point and to make this clear, because when you talk about getting a pass, you earn the pass. That's the point. You earn it. And you can lose it. That's the way it goes. All right? really, really quick. This is a great way for me to once again bring up Cyberpunk 2077. That is a amazing example, and the GTA trilogy as well. These are two amazing examples of publishers who had, dude, you have the biggest free pass in the world, man. Like, you can slide by. You really can. Like, people will give you a pass. But when you mess up that much, so it's, you know what I mean? It's like you didn't just screw it up a little bit. You didn't just make a little mistake here and a little mistake there. I mean, you literally destroyed the whole thing. You ripped up that pass that fans gave you, that free pass, into little tiny shreds and threw it away. You put it in a shredder. You see what I'm saying? That's how I see it. And I feel like, you know, that's why Sony can afford to mess up a little bit here, mess up a little bit there. And people will be like, oh, well, you know, all right, it's cool. It's cool. We get it. You know, it can't be perfect all the time. And that's why, dude, that's why people were so, like me and many others, were so brutally hard on Xbox in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, because Xbox just kept messing it up, man. Like, they just couldn't get it right. They couldn't figure it out. And they did figure it out. Phil Spencer at some point figured out, you know what? We got to go buy more studios. We got to get more backing from Microsoft. We have to find a way to really build a foundation. You know what I mean? I feel like Xbox all last gen was trying to, they keep trying to build a house without a foundation, and it kept collapsing. And they're like, why isn't this working? And meanwhile, PlayStation had already built the foundation, and then they're building the house, and they're making it a luxurious like mansion. You know what I mean? I love using these analogies. So Savage Giraffe 1, you're saying, don't get me wrong, I like my Xbox Series X, but when going from PlayStation to Xbox, it's like eating a 5-course gourmet meal to eating a box of Kraft dinner. And that's I think the thing that people, that's the way it's been for a while, and I think that is going to change. I think that's going to change over the next 5 years. I really do. We also have KD, you're saying Forza Horizon 5 also has a perfect combination of 30 FPS and no ray tracing. Oh, you know, was it mentioning ray tracing in my review of, and you guys can let me know in the chat, I was kind of surprised. I did my year review of the PS5, and I was basically saying how I just don't really care that much about ray tracing, but I kind of thought about it, and I was like, now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't really spent a lot of time playing games with ray tracing enabled. Most games, when they offer performance mode, don't, it also disables ray tracing most of the time. And a lot of people were like, bro, no, dude, hard disagree, man. Like, ray tracing is amazing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I mean, hey, everybody has different opinions. I was just surprised. I was a little bit surprised. Like, there are a lot of people who really do care about ray tracing, and it's like a big difference maker for them. So for me, it's like, well, maybe I have to spend more time playing games with ray tracing. And I think as we go further, we'll get more and more games with ray tracing. I mean, it's one of the only things that I think could really help differentiate last gen from this gen, truly. So you're saying, is it next gen without ray tracing? I don't know, man. Is it? I don't know. Okay. We also have Space D again. You're saying that's why they have 23 studios and counting. And you're right. See, we came to the same conclusion, Space D, by the end. I said that exact same thing. That's why Microsoft invested in all these studios, so that way they're doing it right now. Whether or not you agree with them buying, am I going to go over the Kotaku article? I am. We're going to get to that. But whether or not you agree with them buying Bethesda the way they did, regardless, they're finding a way to do it. iSiler18, again, you're saying story and chapters progress with each sequel with refined gameplay mechanics versus sports games that basically never and can't change. Oh yeah, dude, we're not even gonna entertain the notion of let's compare, God of War Ragnarok to Madden whatever, like, and FIFA. Like, no, God of War rips through all of them like tissue paper. Absolutely. MVG search Stein on Twitter. The guy deactivated Xbox's Twitter page and the other day. Check it. You know what? I know what you're talking about now. I remember seeing that pop up on my feed, and I wasn't like sure what he was talking about. And I probably would have figured it out if I looked at the replies. But you know what? I did see that actually. I just didn't know that's what it pertained to. That is funny, man. Talk about. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine accidentally deleting or like deactivating the Xbox Twitter account? I mean, the amount of sweat like pouring out of your face at that point, like, oh God, like what did I just do? I just lost my job. But yeah, I think they got it back because I know I saw Xbox tweeting. You know what? I saw that tweet too. It all makes sense now. I didn't know what they were talking about. Xbox the Twitter account said we turned it off and turned it back on, and I was like, okay. It got like so many likes. I'm like, what are they talking about? Now it makes sense. It all makes sense now. Space D, you're saying all PS4 games. Rashdan B2, you're saying, but how do you know that? Forza Horizon 5 has some interesting storylines and lore for just a samey racing game. It's not fair to call out Forza Horizon, but not God of War. Again, like Rashdan, I have to emphasize, I'm not calling out Forza Horizon 5. I know that it can be perceived that way, and that's why I'm explaining myself. And I hope you're listening, because I'm not calling it out, dude. Like, it is okay. It is okay for Forza Horizon 5 to be exactly what it is. It doesn't need to change. It's a great game. I'm just simply trying to point out that, people like me are going to look at a game like Forza Horizon 5 and also ask, okay, that's great, Xbox, but what else you got for me? To whereas with PlayStation, I'm going to look at a game like God of War Ragnarok, like, that's great, PlayStation. I know, like, I don't have to ask the question, what else do you got for me? Because I know they're going to have a hell of a lot, and I know it's all going to be, most of it is going to be good. That's all I'm trying to say. And Xbox can absolutely get there. I think they're on their way there. That's what I'm trying to say. Chlorine A, member for 2 months, Play as No Limits Plus. Thank you so much, man. You're saying, I think a lot of people hate PlayStation because a lot of generic games like Ghost of Tsushima and God of War are mega successful, while creative ventures like Death Stranding, Days Gone, and The Order 1886 flop. You know what, man? I feel you on this one, man. And I, as a PlayStation fan, I need to speak to this for a moment, because that's kind of true. Like, I don't want to say that, look, let's just be real here. Let's call a spade a spade. Games like Ghost of Tsushima are generic, but that doesn't mean bad. It just means that it's not really shaking the foundation very much. You know what I mean? It's not trying to. It's taking all of the things that we like and all of the good things and putting them together and being like, let's do it better than anybody. And the same thing with like, I'm going to be honest, man, like you're saying with creative ventures, I got to call you out. I'm not going to call you out. That's not serious, but Chlorine, I have to disagree. I don't think Days Gone fits in that category. I think Days Gone is very much a generic type of game. And it's very similar to Ghost of Tsushima in that it tried to do things that would be perceived as like generic, like been here, done that, but they want it to, they want it to, you know, I guess try to do it in a better way. But I do agree that a game like Death Stranding, the Order 1886 was unique as well to a certain extent, but really Death Stranding is the one that stands out where it's like, that is a prime example of Sony just completely getting behind something that's like, this is not normal at all. Like, this is not going, you know, a lot of people are going to be like, I don't know about this. And it's not a safe bet. That's the point. I feel like the safest bet with Death Stranding is the fact that Kojima was behind it. But I know for a fact that, dude, some executives at Sony, when they saw that gameplay, they were like, oh, man, you know, they're getting out like their handkerchiefs and like dabbing themselves, sweating. They're like, okay, we dumped like $150 million into this game. And they're like, please deliver, Kojima. And I think it did. Apparently the game sold like 5 million copies. I think it did well. But I understand what you're saying, Chlorian. I think people as of right now, people are feeling, I don't want to say down on PlayStation, but I just feel like when you're used to but like something delivering so consistently and like they rarely miss, people are just, they have a higher expectation, you know, they're going to be harder on that thing. Abandoned is abandoned, MBG, apparently. MBG, stop downplaying Forza Horizon 5. PlayStation doesn't have a counter to it. Come on, dude. Like, you got to listen to what I'm saying, man. I'm not downplaying it. I mean, how many times can I say Forza Horizon 5 is a good game? You know what I mean? Until people are like, oh, okay. He said it's a good game. Jack Rabbit, you're saying Sony/Xbox is like Marvel and DC movies. One did something unique and is exceeding while the other is jealous yet insists it wants to be different. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that comparison. Although I do think that it's hard to truly compare what's going on in gaming, like with the launch of the PS5 and the Series X and PlayStation and Xbox. 10 out of 10, you're saying 10 out of 10 isn't just good. All right, okay, it's great, man. Forza Horizon 5 is great. You're right. I should have said great. Apparently, you know, I just will say, apparently Forza like crossed like 6 million players or something like that, which is pretty impressive. That's actually really good. Joshua Reese, you're saying, if Xbox is strong over the next year, I will buy one. I think that's fair. You know, be on the lookout, man. They're going to be doing some stuff. So, all right, I'm going to end this topic and we're going to move on to something else, something that will probably be a little bit more ranty. But before I do, I always feel the need to kind of wrap up a topic by just kind of summing everything up and summing up my thoughts. And I guess what it comes down to is when you look at the first year of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, they both had good years. Like, I don't think, I know that some people are going to be like, no, Xbox had a terrible year. I'm going to say that Xbox also had a good year because they, in the second half of this year, I think that they really did what they needed to do, and I want to give them credit for that. They did what they needed to do, but at the same time, I think Sony had a very strong year, launch with games like Demon's Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, keeping it going with games like Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, and then having some bigger announcements towards the end of the year, like Spider-Man 2, showing some more God of War, showing off Horizon throughout the year. Just doing a good job overall, like letting PlayStation 5 owners know, like, there's a lot coming, you know, and we're going to keep delivering content consistently. I think PlayStation did great. I know people want me to, like, dive into conversations about, like, the, you know, like, how do you feel about, you know, the services and stuff? And it's like, well, I can touch on that briefly. Like, I think PlayStation Plus started out really strong at the beginning with the PS5, and I think it really slowed down. Like, it really kind of like, it's like, okay. I want to say this last thing, actually, before I move on to the next topic, because this is something that's really been in my mind lately, and I'm very curious to see what some of you guys think about this. I will get to that Kotaku article, don't worry. I feel like, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, and feel free to super chat a retort or something if you want, or whether let me know why you agree or disagree. Because this is really, I feel like I have it nailed down. I feel like Sony, or I guess I should say Jim Ryan, because he's the one, pulling all the strings at PlayStation. I think he was legitimately not scared, but nervous. And the reason why I say that is because I think that when we went into this generation, like when Sony was like, we got to start marketing the PS5, I think Jim Ryan really was like, okay, we're going up against the PS4, and the PS4 was way more successful than we expected it to be. How do we do that again? And it's Jim Ryan's job. Dude, you got to do that again, and maybe even better. And so I think what that does to a person is it's like, yeah, okay, we need to put the pedal to the metal here. And I think Sony stacked everything, dude. However, I do think that there was one key factor that, and I don't it's not Jim Ryan's fault, and I'm sure he became aware of it very quickly. I think the key factor that, I don't want to say derailed Sony, but really made them pump the brakes pretty hard is everything that happened with the supply chain. And the fact that I think Jim Ryan was, and I like this about Jim Ryan because I feel like he made this clear, dude. When I think people like they look at Sony's like, Sony lied, and I'm like, well, yeah, they kind of did. Like games like GT7 were supposed to be PS5 only. They literally advertised it as PS5 only. I know, dude, I'm going to tell you right now, God of War was supposed to be a PS5 only game. I believe that in my heart, because I just feel like even if it could have, like, it was obviously always developed on the PS4, but I feel like that game was 100% going to be a PS5 exclusive because Sony was going to be like, that's our ticket. That's how we move millions of units at one time. But when you look at just how things have unfolded, how things have changed, Sony came out with the strongest launch lineup. Sony came out with a killer PlayStation Plus lineups month after month. And then just at some point, it just kind of all slowed down. Like it just, I don't say it came to a halt, but it just slowed down. And I feel certain, looking back now, that what has happened is Sony was all in with the PS5. They're like, we are going balls to the wall when it comes to making this the best console ever. People are going to buy it no matter, like, and we're going to break records. And then the thing that just derailed all of that is, well, actually, you're going to do that. Like, you're going to get people excited. You're going to get them salivating over your console and your games. And they're going to want to run out there right now and go buy one. But you're not going to be able to produce anywhere near enough. And it's going to be that way, not for 1 year, maybe for 2 years. I think that completely shook up the entire plan that was originally in place for PlayStation. I could be completely wrong with that, but people have said to me, no, dude, games like GT7, games like God of War, and maybe even Horizon, they were always planned to be PS4. And I'm like, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second, because I just think that Sony believed that they were going to be selling a lot more units at this point. I think that, and they could have. Like, that's the thing, they absolutely could have. But the supply constraint, the chip shortage, derailed everything, man. You know, and I think that sucks, because I think Sony would have announced more games. I think Sony would have stuck with a game like GT7 and maybe even God of War. God of War was never announced to be PS5 only, but I also want people to think, why didn't Sony explicitly say when they announced God of War, Why didn't Sony explicitly say it's going to be PS4? Why didn't they explicitly say with Horizon that it was going to be PS4? I think that these were all like last minute made decisions because they knew kind of at the start of the PS5 generation that, dude, we're in a weird time right now. Like anything could happen. And I think that they had to just kind of be ready to juke and pivot at any moment. And I think that that's why when you look back at all of the backlash that Sony has gotten, not all of it, but a lot of it, and all of the decisions that Sony made that people were like, what? You know, like, what do you mean? And like people just saying, I hate Jim Ryan and whatnot. I think that explains a lot of it. I'm not trying to defend Sony or anything because they've definitely, you know, I think their communication needs to improve, but I've just been thinking about that because I feel like we've all been sitting here and you guys have been saying to me like, man, I hope they have a PlayStation experience. I hope Sony, you know, has some like big announcements at the Game Awards. But I also just kind of think to myself like, I don't know, man. Like, I think Sony doesn't feel the need right now to have any big reveals or announcements. I can't blame them because it's like, why would they? You know what I mean? If you were Sony, you're saying it's never enough, MBG. No. I'm not trying to take away from anything Sony has done. But guys, like, I just think I get this general feeling because I was there last year with you guys. You guys were here with me. Dude, Sony was like, I've never seen them ramp things up so quickly to where they're like in your face, dude. Like you couldn't escape it. They're like, you are going to want to pay attention to this, man. Like you're going to want to buy this. You're going to want to be here. And then this year, and maybe this is just the natural cadence of the build up to a new generation, going into the first year of that new generation. But man, it's like, and then they just kind of like, okay, we'll see you. Like, we'll be back eventually. And then I just realized that maybe the reason why it's slowed down so much and the reason why Sony is playing it, I don't want to say so safe, but so close to the chest, right? Like, that's the big thing is everybody's like, what's Sony working on? When are they keep talking about 25 games this, 25 games that. Like, I need to reiterate, we heard like 3 separate times this year from Sony, from Herman Hulst and Jim Ryan, we have over 25 games in development. It's like, at what point is like, that's amazing, but when are you going to show these games? You know what I mean? Like, when are you going to show these games? And I just think that Sony's like, I mean, we probably could show you some of them now, but we don't have enough PS5s to sell, and we're not trying to sell PS4s right now. We want to sell PS5s. So I think that, I guess how I could boil this down, because I apologize. I said I was going to move on to the next topic, and we're about an hour and a half in, and I still haven't. I'm going to. I guess I could sum this all up by saying that I think the supply constraint and the semiconductor shortage and the chip shortage, I think that this is ultimately having an effect on the cadence of when Sony is planning to have their shows, make announcements. I think it's having an effect on PlayStation Plus lineups, you know? I think it's having an effect on everything out like that, just everything involving PlayStation in general. And I think that Sony is really not going to really put the pedal to the metal again until like they know that they're not going to have any more supply issues, and until it's like however many people are willing to buy a PS5, we can get them a PS5. We can ensure that a PS5 will be in their hands. That's when I think Sony puts the pedal to the metal again. And that's why I don't think truly that they're going to have any major reveals or like a PlayStation experience this year, because at this point in time, you have to imagine that anything that's in development at PlayStation that we don't know about, most of it, not all of it, but most of it, probably not cross-gen, probably just PS5. And because of that, there's really no reason to announce it. I feel like when you look at Xbox, they kind of did the opposite, where they announced like not all their stuff, but a lot of stuff. And a lot of Xbox's stuff that they announced is next gen only, but it's also not going to be coming out until sometime late next year or 2023 or whatever, you know? But then again, Microsoft's like, you can play it on PC. That's why I think Sony's in a different position. Anyway, that's going to do it for this topic. I want to move on now. But you guys can definitely let me know your thoughts on that. Let me read some of these super chats before we move on. Space Deer saying 8 million plus. Wow, is that how many Forza Horizon 5 got? That's actually more than I thought. It's really good. Zay Very Rare saying Death Stranding made me question what gaming is in a good way. Playing that game broadened my perspective and encouraged me to play different games. Yeah, no, Death Stranding absolutely will have that effect on anybody who plays it for an extended period of time. Because when you first play Death Stranding, you're like, what the hell is this? But once you stick with it, at some point it just clicks and you're like, wow, like I didn't think I could enjoy this game. Now I'm loving it, you know? So remember when Sony believed in generations? I mean, dude, that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, what was up with the whole the quick turnaround there? I think, again, I feel like that's what happens, you know, when you can't make enough next gen consoles. Christopher is saying you can easily buy a Series S now. LOL. Best Buy had them up for a few days and they didn't sell out. They marked them down $10. Guess no one wants them. I'm going to be honest, man. I don't think the Series S is I don't think it's nearly as appealing as Microsoft thought it would be. I really don't think it is. I think that the Series S was Microsoft's attempt to kind of market more to the casual gamer, but you know, at this point, I think it's just an option. You know, it's just an option, and I don't think it's like the must-have by any means. I don't think the Series S is the must-have next-gen console, but I don't know. I do think it will start to pick up in sales, maybe at some point. If they ever do a price cut for it, it'll definitely, I think, pick up in sales. But I look at I see some of these comparisons for new games and how some of them, not all of them, but how some of them run on the Series S, and I'm like, why? Like, why? You know, why would you want to play on this thing, man? MBG, don't forget the leaker who said that there will be a PlayStation experience this year. The same leaker who got the house mark and September showcase correct before they were announced. Dude, I agree, man. Like I remember that, and I do keep that in the back of my mind, but I don't want to set myself up for disappointment. Like I don't want to come out here and be like, yeah, I do think Sony's going to have a PSX, just to have that, you know, just to find out they're not doing anything, you know? I would love it, but I really don't anticipate it, man. I really don't. I would be shocked. I'm going to be like totally honest. I would be utterly shocked if Sony had a PlayStation experience. And I said it before, I'll say it again. If Sony announces a PlayStation experience, which I don't think they're going to, if Sony announces a PlayStation experience, that's basically Sony coming out being like, it's suplexing time. I'm telling you. But I think for Sony, it's not suplexing time yet. I think for Sony, it's let Microsoft have their time, sell as many PS5s as we can. We'll return next year. That's what I think. KD, you're saying the same people complaining about cross-gen games are playing cross-gen games on their Xbox. Same with PS games going to PC. MBG, don't entertain this topic. No, I hear you, man. It's not just about next-gen only. It's about, I think, just looking at how big of an effect the lack of supply being able to meet, you know, the supply not being able to meet the demand. I think it's just about looking at the ramifications of that playing out in front of us, you know. Don't suplex Granny. Layman or Laman, you're saying Naughty Dog's new sci-fi IP Stray Dogs leaked. If you could give me a little bit more information on that, where did it leak exactly? I would like to look into that if it's true, but I haven't seen anything on that. iStyler18, you're saying Horizon and Miles Morales were definitely going to be PS5 only, but regardless, it's still a part of the PlayStation brand. They released a top quality game for pretty much a year. You know what's funny is, did you see how Sony randomly put out that trailer for Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS4 and it got like 1 million plus views or something. It's like, did a lot of people like not know this game was on PS4? Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic. Hit that like button for me, guys. If we could get to 400 likes, that would be incredible because we don't even have 700 people here, which is fine. But being able to hit 400 likes with, you know, about 680 people here, that'd be crazy. So hit that like button for me. The next topic, let's see. What should we do first? Should we talk about the GTA Trilogy disaster or should we go over the Kotaku article? I'm thinking, what should we do? We're going to cover both before the end of the podcast. I'm just seeing, forget GTA. Well, we're definitely going to talk about it. GTA, Kotaku, GTA. I'm getting a lot of GTAs. Oh, Kotaku, because there's a really funny article that we're going to dunk on at some point. That deserves. All right, we'll do. You know what? We're gonna do GTA first because not only am I getting a lot of GTAs, but I think it'll be a good way to kind of break it up. We just talked about the PS5 and the Series X and exclusives for a while. Let's do the GTA trilogy, then we'll go to the Kotaku article. So, oh boy, where do we start? Where do we start with this GTA trilogy? Okay, so I think a good place to start, would be to just tell you. I guess my thoughts on GTA in general, these classic games, and I'm going to do it briefly, but I am like many other people here, okay? Like, I played these games years ago, and so when I saw this GTA trilogy, it was really tugging hard on those nostalgia strings, okay? It really was tugging hard on these nostalgia strings, and I'm like, yeah, I think there's like a 95% chance I'm going to buy this. And Joe, you're saying a disaster, LMAO, playing it now and it's good to me. And I want to make one thing clear before I go on my tear here. Okay, I want to make one thing clear. If you're somebody who paid full price for this game and you are enjoying it, I am not here to tell you that you are not allowed to enjoy it or that there's something wrong with you if you're enjoying it. There are plenty of people who are playing it and they're like, it's fine. And I think that's fine for the consumer because what I'm going to say is not necessarily targeted towards the consumer. The only thing I would suggest for the consumer is you need to, you know, if you're not upset, you're not upset, but you got to pay attention to the things that some people are pointing out. I think it's too easy to conflate things and make them seem worse than they actually are. But I think that in this case, there's some pretty bad things happening with the GTA trilogy. So I have a couple of articles here. Let me see. So the first thing I actually want to point out, because this is crazy to me, dude. I don't know if this is updated or not. Give me a second to check. I want to look at the Metacritic because it's getting decimated. So the PC Metacritic for the GTA trilogy, 2,366 total user ratings, sitting at a, wait for it, 0.6. A 0.6. Okay, now if I go to the Switch port of the GTA trilogy, 319 ratings, 0.5. If we go to, let's see, what is this? Oh, that's wrong one. There's a bunch of articles being written up about it, how it's being review bombed. But it's looking pretty pathetic. And, you know, some people are going to be like, oh, well, you know, like don't pay attention to that. And I get it. Like, people review bomb things all the time, but it like when you see reviews, like when you see something sitting at a 0.6, you gotta at least be like, what, something has to be wrong here. Like that has to be, right? KD, you're saying the GTA trilogy hate is exaggerated. It looks good too. I mean, again, man, like I don't want to be the person who sits here and says, you can't enjoy this game. Like, there are people who played Cyberpunk and enjoyed it, man. You know, there are people who played it and they enjoyed it. I'm not telling them, like, no, you're not allowed to do that. But it's just about highlighting the objective problems You know what I mean? There are objective problems, and what it speaks to is a real problem. It's been a problem in gaming for a long time, and it's not going away. And that is that, like, dude, I'm going to tell you right now before I get into the details of this, I want to say this. My biggest problem with this GTA trilogy, I think it's sad that there are a lot of things wrong with it, and it, in general, it kind of, to a lot of people, it just comes off as a soulless cash grab. But my biggest problem with it is the lack of care and respect that has been shown to these masterpiece games. That's what bothers me the most, because the reason why people are so upset with this trilogy remaster is not because, man, GTA sucks. GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, they all suck. No. It's actually the opposite. It's that people know the greatness that these games were when they dropped. And when Rockstar says, well, you know what? We're going to remaster these games. It's like, yo, they're doing it. Like, okay, all right, you have my attention. And they're like, we're going to sell it to you for full price. 3 games, $60. Like, okay. And when it just kind of, it turns out that it's like, this was just you just wanted to cash in. You know what I mean? Like, you could have done, no one is expecting a game like GTA 3 or Vice City or San Andreas, games that came out, many years ago, 2001, 2002, 2004. No one's expecting these games to be sold in a $60 package where they are completely remade from the ground up, looking like a Blue Point Demon Souls remake or something like that. No one was expecting that. But what people were expecting is, please just make it good. Like, make it so that there aren't a ton of glitches and bugs. Make it so that you retain a lot of the original art style that, even though it was put there due to technical limitations, it actually made it look better. And it really does speak to how important, art, the art style of a game, how important it really is and how big of a difference it makes. But we have iSalary18, you're saying, can you pull some of those comparison images? I'm still dying to see how bad it is. LOL. I don't think I can pull it up right now, but I did pull up some of the images on a video I made of it. Space D, the trilogy port is plain trash. Lamin, you're saying reliable GTA leaker, Google, Ralph's, Valve, Naughty Dog. Okay, maybe I'll look into that before we end the podcast. Thank you for that, Jacob. Appreciate it. Christopher, you're saying, I will say that I do think it's funny that Xbox is the one that is ditching last gen first after they made such a big deal about smart delivery. Yeah, dude, everything's all completely reversed and out of whack when it comes to the whole next gen only games and cross gen and generations with PlayStation and Xbox. So I don't think it matters at this point. I think at this point, everybody collectively is ready to move on to next gen. And I think everybody's just accepted that, okay, games like Horizon and God of War, they're going to be PS4. But once God of War and Horizon are out and GT7, I think at that point, everybody's expecting Sony to move on to next gen. But let's look here. So GTA Trilogy PC is pulled. Data miners discover it contains missing music and Holy Grail. So that's according to a data mine of the newly released collection's game files, and could be the reason why Rockstar seemingly pulled the game from its online store on Thursday. PC players who purchased the trilogy were also left unable to play it for more than 15 hours since its release date due to the Rockstar launcher going down for maintenance. It's not clear if this is related to the discovered game files. According to one Twitter user who claims to have data mined Trilogy's files, all the music that was removed from San Andreas due to expired licenses is actually still present, and the game simply chooses not to play it. Now, I'm no lawyer or anything, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that's probably something that could get you in some type of legal trouble. So it says here, so the audio format of choice for the definitive edition is OGG Vorbis. They tweeted, more interesting, however, San Andreas contains all the cut music. It's just disabled by script. The user claims to have looked into Vice City's files and discovered that while some of it is missing music, including Michael Jackson tracks, they're not present in the game's files. Other tracks are present but disabled. Let me see here. Yeah, so this was something that a lot of people were like, what is going on here? Where basically they just removed the game or disabled it, or they removed it from PC temporarily, and everybody was like, what's going on? And it became pretty obvious that like something's really messed up here, but it actually, it gets worse. So GTA Trilogy chaos continues as hot coffee sex minigame files reportedly uncovered. This potentially includes unlicensed music, full game scripts with developer notes, and even files claimed by users to be related to the infamous canned San Andreas sex minigame Hot Coffee. At the time of writing, the GTA Trilogy has been unavailable on PC for nearly 2 days. So it says here the Rockstar Games launcher is now online, but GTA the Trilogy, the definitive edition is unavailable to play or purchase as we remove files unintentionally included in these versions. Rockstar's support team confirmed on Saturday, we're sorry for the disruption and hope to have the correct ones up soon. It's bad, man. Like, it's on PC, it's a complete disaster, but if you look outside of what's going on with these files and stuff that are being discovered, the game is just unacceptable, man. And to me, it is. Like, it just, there's been a myriad of bugs and glitches. People are just noticing that there are certain areas of the game that are remastered, but are pretty much like they look legitimately worse than the original versions. And I just think that in general, people had higher expectations, man. You know, I think people just had higher expectations where I know people are comparing this to Cyberpunk, and I'm like, yeah, that's where it's exaggerated. Like, come on, guys. You can't say that what's going on with this GT, and I'm not defending the trilogy because I'm not, spelling errors on buildings, that's pretty egregious. Like, come on, man. That's like some amateur hour stuff. And I get it. We all make mistakes, but I think it speaks to the big problem here. The big problem is I'm not even trying to blame the devs because it could, I just want to make it clear. It could be a situation where they just wanted to get the game out at this time. And maybe the developers were like, this isn't ready. We have to like comb through a lot of stuff and really polish it. But they're like, just release it. Like the frame rate issues and whatnot. I really hope that that's the case because at least then it could maybe speak to the studio. I don't even know the studio that did this. I'm assuming it's a Rockstar studio. Whoever is working on this, it would at least assume that they could potentially really do this trilogy justice, but they're probably not going to get the chance to do that. And I blame the executives, man. I do, because it's like that you can tell like they don't respect their own games, man. Like they don't respect the greatness of the GTA trilogy, that they think that they can just get away with this. Like, you should have given this. You're saying it was Grove Street Studios? Oh man. Okay, so I guess they're a first party under Take-Two Interactive, right? They're a Rockstar studio. But this is where it's just like, you gotta find the right studio. You gotta give them the budget and the time. You gotta find the talent that come on, like modders do a better job, man. Like that, to me, that's the part that makes me sick, is that there are people who are so passionate about these games that literally have worked years to make a better version of these games. And what does Take-Two do? Oh, take that down. DCMA or DMCA takedown, whatever it is, right? Because we want to sell you our thing, and their thing is worse. It's like, come on, man. If you're going to do that, I get it. Like, you want a cash in. I don't blame you. You're talking about some of the greatest games ever made. It's the GTA trilogy. You want to make that money. That's fine. But it all you have to do is just respect the games. Respect the games. Give them the treatment that they deserve. If you can do that, you're saying people are passionate about making a living. I would agree with that, but that's not the case here, man. We're talking about Rockstar. We're talking about Take-Two Interactive. This isn't about people making a living. Although, I mean, it is to an extent, but what I'm saying is that, no, this is about the shareholders. This is about pushing the game out during the holiday season when they know that they're going to maximize sales and profit. And that's just it, man, is like, that's all they did. It's the Cyberpunk thing, dude. Like, when you look back at Cyberpunk, again, I think Cyberpunk is significantly worse than this. At some point, dude, like, it does whittle down and it boils down to this. Leadership has to make decisions. You have your developers coming up to you saying, this isn't done. This isn't complete. And the leadership has to make a decision. Do we let them finish it and release it when it's done and give them more time to finish it? Or do we just say, I don't care. This is the deadline. We got to make the most amount of money right now. We got to capitalize on this moment now. We're putting it out there. And I'm just sick and tired of seeing that happen. And that's not about people just making a livelihood. It's not. It's about being greedy. That's what it's about. Because this trilogy was always going to sell. You know, it's just that there could have been a situation where it could have sold really well and also reviewed really well, and the fans were really happy too. But that just wasn't going to happen as long as they decided to go on this. See somebody asking if I watched Yang Ye's video on the trilogy. I have not. To be honest, I don't really watch Yang Ye anymore. But I have not seen his video. But I think I'm going to be honest, I was covering this a little bit before everybody else was. And I just kind of left it alone because I thought that, I don't know, I thought that it wasn't going to really escalate much. But, Josh, you're saying, you've been saying that your next-gen moment was Demon's Souls, but if you go back when you got your PS5, you were saying it was actually Miles Morales. That's true. Oh, come on. Oh, man, come on. My cat almost just flipped off my switch here and would have literally just shut the stream down. You got to go. Come on. It's too cramped over here. You know what? You're right, dude. You're right. I think it's like a tie because I remember when I first played Demon's Souls, I was extremely impressed, but something about Miles Morales really impressed me too. Like they really, like, I guess it's because it was a cross-gen game. Like I just did not expect Miles Morales to look that good as a cross-gen game. And that really shocked me. So I don't know if maybe I was saying it was my next-gen moment. Maybe that's not fair because if anything, it was like, I don't know. It was a moment that really showed me like, holy crap, like, okay, I guess cross-gen can work, you know? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's kind of a tie. I feel like I have to give it to Demon's Souls because Demon's Souls is just, I don't know, man. It's amazing. Brett Williams, you're saying blame the players. The companies are just making what sells. And if gamer standards are so low that they'll buy it, then it's our collective fault. Like, dude, okay. It's a great point, man. It's a great point. Like, I remember when Cyberpunk 2077 came out and it was announced it sold like 13 million copies. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, what are you people doing? You know, like, that's where I do genuinely get pissed off because I'm like, you're literally saying this is okay. I'm not saying the GTA trilogy is that bad. I really don't think it's that bad. If anything, I'm going to be honest. If anything, this is bringing back some bad memories. This is bringing back some bad memories of Cyberpunk. And I don't know. I just don't understand why people are so okay with this. You know, like we really collectively as the gaming community, we need to send a message to publishers. And I'll tell you right now, you know what message I'm going to be sending? I'm sending a message to Rockstar because I'm not going to lie. Like I was very tempted to buy the GTA trilogy. I was very tempted. KD, you're saying you're going way too hard on GTA MBG. Trust me, LOL. I mean, it's true. I haven't played it, but this is just where I'm only one person, and I don't think I'm going to make the difference, but I'll tell you, like, I'm going to save my money. I really am. You know, I want to send a message and speak with my wallet, and they were going to get $60 out of me, you know, due to nostalgia, and I love those games. But after seeing everything I've seen, especially like the fact that it's like, well, wait for some patches, we're going to fix their performance mode and stuff. I'm just like, you know what? That's okay. Like, that's okay. You know, I'm going to save my money for a game that I feel like is worth buying at launch. And this is why, dude, I'm telling you, this is why I just don't care about people who are like, you'll pay $70 for Returnal. You're goddamn right I will. You'll pay $70 for Ratchet and Clank. You're goddamn right I will. Okay? Because when you pay, yeah, that's a lot of money. I'm not downplaying the amount of money. I'm not downplaying that at all. But when I bought those games, I knew what I was getting. I knew that this is quality. This is not going to be compromised. And I think that that's another thing that hurts the GTA trilogy so bad, is that we're talking about Rockstar games. Rockstar. Red Dead 2. Okay? Red Dead 2, GTA 5. Like, these are games that when you bought them, you're getting way more than what you're paying for, bro. You pay $60 for Red Dead 2, that game is worth more than $60. Easily. Easily. And I just think, and when you look back to games like GTA San Andreas and Vice City, it's the same thing, man. It's the same thing. It's like when you bought those games back in the day, you're getting your money's worth at the time. You know, it was the best. And I'm going to put it to you this way. I feel like they just shouldn't have bothered with this. That's my conclusion. They shouldn't have bothered remastering them. I think they would have just done better to just be like, you know what? We're just, I don't know, man. Like, I think that maybe they should have just re-released the original collection. And that's the thing that I think people are really upset about too, is people are upset that if you are not satisfied with the remaster trilogy at this point in time, as far as I'm aware, you can't go back and buy the original trilogy. They delisted them. I think there are physical copies of the PS2 original trilogy. And this is where the whole game preservation and digital age and stuff, it's like, I don't know, man. To me, I've just decided that, you know what? For now, I'm just done with Rockstar. For now. I haven't given up on Rockstar. I haven't given up on them, but I just don't want to send the wrong message to game publishers anymore. And this is where, like, I get really serious about, on a human level, like, I'm just like any other person out here, okay? My time is limited. My money is limited. I'm not a rich person, you know? Like, I understand the value of $1. I'm not saying rich people don't, but I'm just saying, like, I just don't have money to waste. Okay? I don't have time to waste. My time is just as important. Time, money, right? I no longer can tolerate so many things that happen, that are going on in the gaming industry. And this, I know that some people are going to be like, dude, you know, of course you're going to bring this back to PlayStation. But dude, if people want to know why I am such an avid fan of PlayStation and such a PlayStation enthusiast, to where, like, people wonder why, like, why just why is it PlayStation? Because, dude, like, I don't feel like I'm taking a risk with PlayStation. That's all I'm saying. I feel like with almost every other publisher, and there are plenty of publishers where I'm like, it's not even a question anymore. Like, absolutely, you're taking a risk. Like, I remember recently I was thinking about Far Cry 6, and I'm like, no. I'm just like, no, I'm not doing it. Not because it's a bad game, but because I just can't. Like, I can't do it. You know, I can't do it. You know, in that case, it's a little bit different, but it's like, it's mainly because just Ubisoft in general, and I'm not trying to go through every publisher here. But it's like Ubisoft, we know what direction they're going in, man. And I'm just like, I can't do it. You're saying play Kingdom Bridge of Spirits? Absolutely, I am. I'm supporting them. They got my money. I'm getting the physical version of the game. It's, I don't know. You're saying for you personally, Returnal and Miles Morales should have been 30, maybe 25 to 30 bucks. I mean, I don't know. I guess if I had just beaten Returnal and didn't try to go for the trophies and try to like unlock a bunch of stuff, I could see how maybe somebody would be left feeling it should have been a little bit cheaper. But yeah, I'm absolutely gonna play Kingdom Bridge of Spirits. Christopher, you're saying you can play San Andreas on Game Pass and GTA 3 on PS Now if you have those services. Also, what is your game of the year so far for the Game Awards? I don't know. I feel like this year I didn't really play as many games as I thought I would, but for me it has to be Returnal, man. I know that seems like a cop-out, but it really is. I think about all the games I played this year, which again, not as many as I should have, and maybe if I played more, I'd be thinking differently, but I think it's Returnal for me. I think Returnal is my game of the year. I'll have to go back and look at all the games I played and really think it over. And I'll do that before we tune into the Game Awards. But I do think that Housemarque really, like, you know, you're talking about the same studio who was known for like twin stick shooters. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and then look at what they did with Returnal, dude. That's not an easy thing to do. Guardians of the Galaxy? I don't know. We'll see, man. I mean, whenever I play it eventually, who knows? Who knows? Demon Souls. I want to say Demon. I don't know, though. Is Demon Souls, is that going to be in the running? Didn't that come out too late? I don't remember. That's actually, now I'm really curious. Can somebody answer that question for me? I don't know when the cutoff is. Oh my God, dude. I remember, you know what you guys just reminded me of? I remember when it was like this time last year, Demon Souls wasn't nominated, so maybe it will be. No, not Demon. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. December. Okay. Dude, I remember this time last year. You guys remember all the Cyberpunk fans? I'm sorry. I know this is like turning into like, man, it's not an Xbox hate podcast now. It's a Cyberpunk hate podcast. No, I just have Cyberpunk on the mind. I just finished Tim Rogers' like 10-hour long review of Cyberpunk, so it's on the mind. It's fresh. I remember people last year, these Cyberpunk fans were like, they would get mad when I would hype up, some of them, not very many, but some would get mad when I would hype up PlayStation's exclusives, and I'd be like, game of the year, or like God of War is going to be game of the year when it drops, right? And they'd be like, yeah, right, Cyberpunk's going to dump on anything Sony releases. And I'm like, you sure about that? And I'm going to be honest, it was it was so bad for Cyberpunk that I didn't even feel the need to be like, you know what? I just feel sorry, man. Like, that sucks. You know, like I thought at the very least, like, yeah, maybe Cyberpunk can go at it, can give games like God of War a run for its money. And I'm just like, you're not going to see Cyberpunk nominated for shit. If it's just, it never will be. It's that's all. I just had to say that. KD, you're saying old Trilogy doesn't have playable control state. That's true. I will say that is the biggest thing I've heard so far about the GTA Trilogy, is that the updated control scheme makes a huge difference, which I imagine it would be. It's been so long since I played the classic GTA games, so I can't. I would honestly, I would probably just play it forgetting what the original controls were like, and just be like, this is how it always was, right? D-Doc, you're saying, quit lying, MBG. We know you eating good off those Blue Box Studios checks. Yeah, dude. Oh man, you know, people still ask me about that, and it's hard to ignore, because it was, again, like, the energy levels were so high with the whole Blue Box Studio thing, and I'm not trying to bring any attention to it, because I'm not trying to do that, but I just can't really fathom, like, I still can't get over it. I told you guys I was going to give it till the end of the year, and I still mean that. However, I have zero hope, but I'm going to give it till the very end of the year with Blue Box and Abandoned, and if dude, I don't know, man. It breaks my brain to even think about it. Like, how did that happen? How did that happen? That was the craziest shit I've ever seen. But then again, maybe things like that do happen from time to time. And this was just the first time I was really engaged with it. So I see some people, they're still like, they're like, I believe. And I'm like, I can't say I believe, but man, I believe that was the weirdest thing ever. Like, I still look back at all of the weirdness and I'm like, what the like, I just want to say one thing. And I want to say this one thing because I want you guys to tell me if you agree with this or not. Saying MBG, you learned a lot from that though. That is, dude, that's true. If by the end of this year, if it just turns out, bro, if it just, when it's all said and done, because I don't know that it's over yet. I know that sounds crazy. I mean, look, my coat's hung up, my hat's hung up, I'm chilling. You know, I'm like the detective that's like, case is closed, you know? But I'm still that detective where it's like, but, you know, I'll always kind of think, is it though? You know, we'll see what happens. I just want to ask you guys this one thing. When I think back to that entire situation, okay, we have to understand that, dude, this is like an indie dev apparently who they just captured the entire industry. They were trending week after week after week for months at a time, dude. Bigger than anything that was going on, dwarfing everything. And at some point, it got to a point where now Hassan is doing interviews. And when you read these interviews, you're like, there's something off about these interviews. They're not normal. They don't sound right, you know? And I just wanted to say that when you're talking about something that really, really captures that type of momentum to where like, dude, this is taken on a life of its own. I still can't get over the fact that somebody had the power, man. You better believe that. Somebody had the power to end it. Outside of Hassan, that is, and Blue Box. I just mean like somebody could have come out and nipped it in the bud and severed the head. And I understand that there are nuanced reasons why nobody would do that, maybe. I like if you really think about it, like there are explanations as to why people wouldn't do that, why they would just be like, don't touch it, don't say a word, just leave it be. Let that like, I guess at some point it's almost like maybe the reason why nobody did anything was because it's like, dude, this train is going to crash into that wall and you can't stop it, dude. And anybody who would have tried to stop it would have just stepped in front of a train, got run over with it. You know what I mean? And so I don't know, man. I don't know. That like that'll go down as in my book, when it's all said and done, man. If that game eventually releases and it's like, yep, it's actually just a random indie game. If that's what it all ends up being, I will say that was one of the greatest trolls I've ever witnessed. Like, damn, you know? I would like to talk about, I mean, look, it was fun. It was fun while it lasted because it felt like it really was leading to something more, you know? It really did feel like it was leading to something more, and I think a lot of people, and you know, I just want to say that how sad is it, man? How sad is it? You know, people say, "Oh, you're stupid, MBG. You know, you're just a fan. You got overly hyped." And it's like, I get it. Like, I get it, man. Like, they played me like a damn fiddle. You know, I played myself like a fiddle, right? Like, we were all played. But I will say this: how sad is it? Gaming in 2021, right? Like the gaming industry where it's like, man, it's not just me. It's not just me. Because look back at that. at what happened. It wasn't just me. Okay? I wasn't the only one out here talking about this thing. How sad is it that you look back and you're like, man, I had more fun. I had more fun, like living this delusional lie temporarily, believing something that just apparently wasn't true, than I do with most video games, like modern AAA video games outside of a lot of the stuff that Sony releases. How sad is that, dude? Like, to me, like, does that not speak to the state of gaming, man? We also have, come on, you want to talk about Abandoned again? Let's ask. So, a lot, I will say, some people are holding out hope. You're saying Colin Moriarty still thinks it's something more than just an indie game? Dude, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, I listen to Sacred Symbols all the time, and I'm like, I know he gets it. Like, I know Colin Moriarty sees that this shit is weird. Like, this is like beyond bizarre. This is not normal. Like, to any extent. Things like this don't just happen. But you're saying Abandoned stream, do it. I will say this. The only time I'm going to do another Abandoned or Blue Box stream is when they do something again. And they might never do anything again. I'm just saying. And that's when I'll do it. I'm not trying to turn this into that, but the last thing I'll say is I have seen some people are like, dude, Blue Box is going to show up at the Game Awards and they might be there, and they might. I don't know, dude. I don't know. But the next time I'll like really kind of talk about them in a meaningful way is when they're doing something. I don't. That's why I try not to bring it up too often at all. It's hard for me not to talk about it sometimes because I just still can't. My brain is still rattled by the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I just still can't believe, like, what the, how? Like, I can't accept that this is what it was. Like, I feel like I can't accept it. I need some kind of closure. That's what I'm saying. There we go. I need some kind of closure with this whole journey because I feel like there was no closure. You know what I mean? And so you're saying don't pick at the scab. I'm not. But the wound is still kind of, it's still there, man. And I feel like the way I'll get closure is when Hassan releases the PP. By that, I mean playable prologue. When we get that playable prologue, whenever that date may come, I think that'll be the closure. Okay, that'll be the closure. Okay, like we can finally lay it to rest and move on officially. You're saying Hassan was playing the prologue 2 days ago. Well, good. I hope. I hope that they're able to actually deliver on it at some point, because I do want to say, look, for everything that this game and this everything that's happened, if they can just deliver some kind of good game by the end of it all, it doesn't have to be Silent Hill, doesn't have to be Kojima. If it could just be a good game, it could still end up being a worthwhile thing in the end, but we'll have to see. I'm going to have to let my cat out, by the way, because she's like freaking out. I didn't even know she was in here. You're saying move on, LOL. No, we are. We're moving on. Let me see. Brett Williams, you're saying Sony first party, it's worth every dollar. I agree. Okay, Kapop, you're saying for me, 60 FPS in new and old games is the big step. My favorite games are Miles Morales and Ratchet & Clank. Yeah, I said that in my PS5 review. You want me to rant about my cat? Dude, I rant about my cats all the time, man. They frustrate the hell out of me. I love cats. Like, I think cats are great. I like having pets, but man, they can be a headache sometimes, man. Cats, when you have like the kind of cats that are like looking to start trouble, it's just like, well, what's going to happen today? I think if you're a cat owner, you know what I'm talking about. Cat rant. Yeah, it's a new thing when I rant about my cats. Let me see. Black Waifus, you're saying, MBG, I hate you. I know you don't hate me, Black Waifus. Do I have any dogs? No, I used to. I used to have a dog. I like dogs too. I have 2 black cats. They are very intense. Yeah, dude. Cats are intense. Most cats are. Christopher, Demon Souls wasn't nominated because remakes are excluded from the rules. The cutoff is mid-November. Okay, thanks for explaining that. I didn't know that. How did I not know that? How did I not know remakes? That makes sense now that you mention it. But But it definitely would have been a Game of the Year contender, right? Sergey, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but you're saying, I think you should play Kena before choosing your Game of the Year. I plan to. Again, I think the physical copy of Kena releases on the 19th, so I'm going to boot that up, obviously talk about it, and who knows, maybe that could be my Game of the Year. I have high hopes for it, man. Brett Williams, you're saying remakes and remasters don't belong in the Game of the Year conversation for me. Yeah, I think that's fair, dude. I think that's fair. You know what? Yeah, hold on. Wasn't Final Fantasy VII Remake? That was... No. Okay, hold on. I don't think that's true, Christopher, because you're right. Somebody is mentioning it. Final Fantasy VII Remake was part of the conversation of the Game Award last year. So, yeah, I don't know. Crispy, you're saying, love the Hassan Streams best gaming event of 2021. Thanks, MVG. Well, I'm glad, I had fun too, man. It was... everybody's like, oh, you're just doing it for clout. I'm like, no, that's not the only reason, man. Like, I really believed something, dude. And I was, it was a fun time at the very least. I'll always remember that. I'll always remember that experience on YouTube. And who knows, maybe something else will happen. Not like that, but, something as exciting, I mean. Black Waifus, you're saying, when the time arises next year, you'll be able to profit from this debacle but it definitely is something strange. Okay, so I know, I'm going to move on. I meant to say this one other thing too. I've said this multiple times, but I have to reiterate it just because I feel like it's part of the whole thing. It's part of 2021. It's part of next gen at this point. Does anybody else, I just want to put it out here. Does anybody else does anybody else find it really, really weird how there has been just a litany, a nonstop flow, like a waterfall of just Silent Hill this, Kojima that, Sony this, Sony Konami this, Sony Kojima, Sony Silent Hill, you're telling me all of that for all of these years, it just led to nothing? It's just, I think to me, that's the craziest thing where it's like, it's one thing when there's one rumor here, maybe two rumors, and then they die out. It's another thing when it's there's just constant smoke. There's smoke everywhere. The smoke won't stop. There has to be a fire, and then it just disappears. And it's there never was a fire, man. It's what? I just want to say that to me, it's still crazy to me that we've been talking about it for all this time, and there's just nothing. Nothing. What is going on, dude? Weird stuff, man. Weird stuff. I made it up in my head. Yeah, dude, I'm crazy. Apparently. MBG has to figure out how to compile February 2022. Oh, absolutely. Yazzer, you're saying, will the PP be in the realm of triple anus? Oh, dude, you made me spit on my monitor. That's a great question, man. I we'll have to see. Yeah, you can hear my cat meowing. I'm going to have to let her out. Katie, you're saying Final Fantasy Remake isn't a remake, LOL. Sorry, spoiler alert. Yeah, I heard that too. Apparently they did change some things. Oh yeah, somebody's saying Bloober Team is doing Silent Hill. I mean, I guess if we did get the announcement of Silent Hill by Bloober Team, that would bring closure, but man, that would be, I don't know. I would give it a chance, but that would ultimately feel disappointing to me. But I would give him a chance. I'd at least give him a fair shake. Be like, all right, show me what you can do, And then we have Sheldon. You're saying the PP always brings closure. Oh, God. I just had to mention, Blue Box abandoned PP. That's, yep, okay. Let's get the 450 likes, guys. We're going to move on to some other topics that I have lined up here. Christopher, you're saying, check the link I just posted in the chat. I actually won't let me click links in the chat. So hopefully you can tell me at some point what it is you're trying to send me to. Maybe I can look it up myself. I'll be right back, guys. Come on, you gotta go. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Had to let the cat out. Let me see. MBG went on a playable prologue break. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I guess I'm just like wondering. I feel like you guys and a lot of my audience on the channel, we go through, I think, we go through the same type of ups and downs. What I mean by that is like, there are just, we can detect like those moments, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh shit, like now it's going. I feel like right now, and I know that some people have expressed frustration with me with this, and I feel like I have to talk about this for a moment. I've seen comments from people who seem to get frustrated because they're like, MBG, it seems like you can't stop and smell the roses or wake up and smell the coffee. Like, you're always worried about what's next, and you don't really spend enough time enjoying like what is. And you know what? I do agree with that to an extent, but it's just kind of, it's partly who I am, you know? And it's what gaming kind of is to me, where it's not that I don't appreciate what is. A great example of this is like one of my highlights of this year, okay? And I just don't talk about it that much, and maybe I should talk about it more, but I did talk about it on the podcast a couple times. One of my highlights of 2021 is playing Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. I just feel like it's a little bit more difficult to talk about that because to a lot of people, that's kind of irrelevant, you know? Not everybody, but to a lot of people, it's like, well, Ghost of Tsushima already came out. This is just them re-releasing it. You know what I mean? And I get that. But for me, it was like, this is my first time, I mean, really like digging into this game, man, and just doing everything. And I will admit, maybe I'm kind of foolish for not talking about it more. Maybe I should talk about it more. But I think you guys also understand that sometimes gaming is something that maybe you don't want to share it. I actually came across a super interesting video that I almost considered doing a reaction to, but it felt a little strange to do a reaction to a video like this. And maybe you guys have seen this. How many of you know who Maximilian Dude is? I know many of you know who he is. He's a great YouTuber, great content creator, but he's a streamer. Okay, and he posted a video that was really fascinating to me. And the video was him, it was recently. He talked about how he was going to be playing Elden Ring early, and how he was going to be experiencing that early. He got the privilege to be able to do that, but he was saying how he was having anxiety and it was really difficult for him because he's so used to streaming games that he was basically explaining streaming kind of messed him up, where he can't really enjoy it. What I got from what he was saying is he was having trouble being able to enjoy a video game on his own without an audience, let alone even be able to play one without an audience. Like, he got to a point where he's like, I can't, like, it just feels weird to him, to the point where it gives him anxiety to even try to play a game without a streaming audience. And that was just so crazy to me because I'm like, okay, like, that's a real thing. Like, I've always told you guys, like, I would love to start streaming myself playing games more. But the thing that absolutely stopped me is like, I don't want to ruin what gaming is for me. And I'm not saying it ruined it for him. I'm just saying that it's clearly a thing that can happen to your psyche. It changes your perspective. Where when I get a new game, like, okay, I'll give you an example. I remember when Returnal dropped this year. Okay, Returnal. And I felt like I have to stream myself playing this. Like, I have to stream myself playing the first hour of this game. And for me, I'm not used to doing that. And so it kind of ruined the first hour of the game for me because I was kind of like feeling nervous. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm feel really weird because I know people are watching me, and it felt weird when people were watching me when I didn't know what I was doing. Like, that gave me anxiety where I'm like, I'm not really enjoying the game the way I should be because I'm too focused on like, I think I'm doing it wrong and people are watching me do it wrong. I remember one time shout out if you tuned into this stream when Resident Evil 3 Remake dropped and I was streaming it and I had to do my first puzzle and I was like, oh man, like I'm cracking under pressure. Like, I could probably very easily do this puzzle. like no problem. If I was just playing alone, my brain would work right. But because I know people are watching me, it's making me feel like, you know, like pressured over a puzzle. And I'm like, you know, I can't do this, man. I can't do this. And yeah, it's just it didn't really feel natural. But I just thought that was a super interesting video because I'm like, that's not, you know, like I don't want that to ever happen to me because that's what makes gaming special. And I guess that kind of ties into Ghost of Tsushima because I really did think like maybe I should stream my like an entire playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima. Another good example is when I tried to stream Demon Souls. I streamed it for the first time. It was my first time playing a game on PS5, and it was me playing Demon Souls. And I had a lot of people watching, man. Like, I think 3,000 plus people were tuning in, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I've never had this many people watch me play a video game. And it was Demon Souls, of all things. And I'm like, I've never played this before. I'm gonna get my ass handed to me. And it went pretty well. And then I streamed it again like a couple days later, and it just went off a cliff because I got stuck in the game and I couldn't get past the I forget the name of the boss. It was like the spider boss, and I literally for like 2.5 hours I was just trying to beat that boss. And I know for a fact that like I could have easily beaten it, but I got hung up on the fact that the armored spider, I couldn't get past it. You know, and I'm like I'm like losing it. I'm losing my grip because I know everybody's watching me. You're like, bro, like you've been stuck on this boss for the past like hour and a half. Like, move on. And I'm like, oh God. So yeah, it's weird, you know, being a content creator and it definitely changes your perspective. Christopher, you're saying check Twitter mentions. I sent the link there. Okay, give me a second. Let me see. I'm not seeing it for some reason, man. Why, I don't know why it's not showing up, dude. Maybe, Christopher, if you could just tweet it send it to me, whatever the link is, tweet it under my tweet about the podcast. I have a tweet out there with the podcast. If you could just send it there, because I'm not seeing it come up. But, you know, the thought I kind of had when it comes to streaming games, if I ever want to start to do that more often, because I think people do want to hang out with me and enjoy that, and I enjoy it too. I feel like it has to be for games that I've already played and like kind of, I don't want to say have mastered, but I like it's not new. And I know that removes some of like the, you know, the luster of like, oh, seeing it for the first time, watching how somebody responds to it the first time. Oh, dude, I remember when I streamed Shadow of the Colossus and that final boss. Oh man, dude, my hands were like sweating. I'm like, oh God, like I'm sucking really badly and I can't get past this. And it was just getting to me. And trying to solve some of the puzzles in Shadow of the Colossus. Anybody who was watching those streams, they saw like, man, MBG is having a struggle with this game, but it was a great game. I enjoyed it though. Sally, you're saying I remember you trying to beat that spider. LOL. Yeah, dude, it was tough. Okay, so let me see what other topics I've left. So with that, I want to talk about Elden Ring for a little bit because guys, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because I can only say so much, but I have been watching the impressions. I've been listening to people give their impressions, and I just, there are some people, I think they're being too hard on Elden Ring, man. Like, I really do. I think some people are being too hard on Elden Ring. You say you want me to, you know what? You posted on their podcast. JDTV, you're right. I do want to mention Battlefield real quick before I dive into Elden Ring. So Battlefield, okay. See. Okay, I see the article you sent. Why some of 2020's big games didn't get Big Game Awards nominations. Okay, man, I'll have to look into this. I'm not going to be able to read this now, but I'll look into this. It'll help me understand the Game Awards process a little bit better, but I appreciate you sending me that, man. So I came across an article or something. It was a write-up about Battlefield, and it was apparently a list, and I think the list came from DICE, I could actually check real quick. Battlefield 2042 missing features. Let me see. Battlefield 2042 players furious over another big missing feature. Voice chat will be missing. Battlefield 2042 won't have voice chat at launch, but will come with a number of technical issues. Battlefield 2042 should have been delayed again, reads a blunt headline from the Washington Post, who's joined by many others in being surprised by the state in which the game launched. Early access is live now. It has only just been discovered that Battlefield 2042 does not have a voice chat feature at present, a glaring omission in a modern multiplayer shooter. According to players and reviewers, the lack of voice chat is most noticeable in 32-player Hazard Zone. We are in a squad of 4 battling other squads. Electronic Arts told the Washington Post that most people use applications like Discord and console party chat features to communicate, so it'll add in-game voice chat shortly after launch. And on top of this, so a lengthy list, check this out. See, this is what I'm talking about, man. A lengthy list of known issues is available on EA's website for those interested. Now I'm clicking on this, and Battlefield 2042 known issues, and it's just like, it's this entire list of just broken shit. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is where I genuinely get pissed off, man. Like, I was looking forward to Battlefield, and I played the beta, and I'm like, this isn't very good. Like, what? Like, this isn't very good. You want $70 for this? I'm like, you do realize you are asking me for the same price for your game that Sony is asking me for theirs. And this isn't doing it. This isn't going to cut it. And then I came across this list of all this stuff. Guys, I want to count how many things. I want to count how many things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it goes 8, 9, 10, 11. Dude, there's all these. Let me see. Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. It goes on and on. And I'm like, how? How can you release a full $70 game and then release a list of all these issues? Like, I'm so tired, man. I'm just so tired of this. Every November, I feel like there's something. KD, you're saying, under all the issues plus lack of content, it's an incredible game with Battlefield 2042. I hate and love it at the same time, getting really big FPS spikes on PC. So it sounds, from what I can tell, the only thing that is saving Battlefield 2042 from being absolutely destroyed is Hazard Zone and the Battlefield Portal. And I mean, I could see that. Like, Battlefield Portal is like the biggest thing that I was like, you know what, maybe I will play it. Maybe I will play it, but I don't know, man. Like, I feel like, is it really asking too much? You know, like, is it, I mean, truly, like, I don't mean to sound like a whiner or a complainer, but is it really asking or expecting too much for big AAA game publishers who are asking full price for their games to just make just finish your game, man. Make a complete product. This shit doesn't fly in any other industry. Do you know that? You know, could you imagine like buying a car with like missing features and they'll say, well, we'll add it later, just missing parts. Like, you don't do that. You know, you don't do that. And the only time that's ever allowed is if they give you a huge discount, you know? You're saying Portal is the only Hail Mary for 2042. Yeah, I don't know, man. I try. See, I'm going to be honest, man. Like, these are things that I feel like I could make videos on. And I see it on YouTube, man. Like, there's a formula to win YouTube. There truly is, where, you know, you can make a lot of content pointing out the negative. You can make a lot of content like really highlighting just the bad things and the drama. And there's a lot of it, man. And there are channels that you see them all over where that's their bread and butter, bro. Like, they will milk it. And I get it. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like, we need people at the forefront to call this shit out and to let us know. One of the reasons I can't do that, or at least that often, is because it really ruins gaming for me, man. I gotta give people who like have big YouTube channels or just YouTube channels in general where their main focus is just calling it, like, this is what they focus on. I gotta give them credit. I don't know how they don't quit gaming. And maybe they do secretly. I don't know. Maybe not secretly. Maybe some people don't actually game, but it ruins games for me, man. Like, I can't, like, it makes me feel like I don't, you know, like, I want to be excited about games. I want to be positive about games. I don't want to force positivity. I don't want to be delusional about them, but I just have to keep it simple for me, man. You know, like Battlefield 2042. Hey, I was looking forward to it. Originally, they sold me on it. And then as we got closer to launch, it just became more and more apparent and clear that this game isn't done yet, you know, and they want $70. And I'm just, nope. Like, no, I'm not going to pay $70. You know, and I'm getting, I don't know. This is why I'm just so stubborn with video games anymore. You know, I'm really stubborn with video games. And I feel like I have to be. JDTV, you're saying DICE removed the ability to level up weapons and earn skins in solo/co-op against bots, even though they promised it. That's my main issue with the game. Oh my God. Okay. I gotta rant some more, dude, because you know what? That's bullshit. Just straight up. But you know what that reminded me of? I saw on Twitter Back for Blood, okay? Back for Blood, where they put out a roadmap. And one of the things on this roadmap, I was literally like flabbergasted. And I'm just saying, like, this is just the cherry on top. I'm not saying that what I'm about to bitch about with Back for Blood, I'm not trying to say that, like, this is on the same level as, like, Cyberpunk or, you know, 2042 or they're all on different levels, or GTA Trilogy. But, dude, one of the things that they had on their roadmap was single player progression. And they have a solo mode in Back for Blood. They made a solo mode, and they made it so you can't unlock or progress in any way when you choose to play in solo mode. And people were furious about this. They're like, what the F are you doing? And they come out and they're like, oh, don't worry, we have a roadmap. We're going to add progression to solo mode, not this month, in December. I'm pretty sure in December. And I'm just like, I can't take this anymore. Like, I can't deal with this shit anymore. Like, what is gaming turning into? You know what I mean? Like, it really does beg the question, like, is this the point that we've gotten to where, no offense to Back for Blood, but based off of everything, Back for Refund. Yeah, dude, no offense to Back for Blood. I understand the developers. I'm not trying to be too hard on developers, but man, we got to call a spade a spade. The game is just trying to basically do something that's already been done, and I think it did a worse job of it. And you're telling me you can't? This is why, man. Like, this is why you have to be hard. You have to be hard on these publishers and these developers. Now, maybe it's not just the developer's fault. Maybe, again, like, we have to understand that a lot of times, and this is why people are probably asking me, dude, no, be hard on the developers. It depends. It's a nuanced situation, because a lot of times what's really going on is the publisher has a gun to the head of the developer saying, like, you're releasing it, whether you like it or not. And then the developer faces the backlash. And this is where these slimy corporations, okay, these greedy ass corporations, they don't give a fuck. I gotta let it fly, man. They don't give a fuck about gamers or a finished product. Or all they care about is it making us money? Is it making us money? This is why I'm saying, like, you gotta be hard on them, man. You gotta save your money. You gotta be cognizant of where you're putting your money, man, because this is why, man. They still, even after Cyberpunk, they're still doing it. They're still doing it because do you know why? Do you know why? Because Cyberpunk still sold 13 fucking million copies after it was completely broken. And I mean completely and utterly shit. Dude, I gotta be brutal because I just watched a 10-hour review of Cyberpunk to come to the conclusion that what the hell is going on in gaming today, man? You're saying Halo save us? I hope it does. So, I'm sorry, dude. Sony, save us. Everybody's complaining about Sony wanting to do multiplayer games. I'm like, you know what? Hey, Sony, they had the single player experience on lock, dude. Yes, 10-hour review. Tim Rogers, great reviewer. Go check him out. Action Button Reviews. Oh, man. Dude. Sony has single-player games on lock, okay? They've been doing a great job. If Sony can do for multiplayer games what they've done for single-player games, and they can do both, I won't need any other publisher anymore. And that's why I'm like, you know what? Sony wants to make a live service game. Let's see. Let's see. And I know I'm being really doom and gloom. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound like there aren't any good games or any good publishers. There are. Okay. And I know it's a lot easier to see the, to see the blemishes and the problems than it is to see the goodness that's there. It's just easier. That's how our brains are wired, to notice the problems before you appreciate what isn't a problem. That's human nature. It's biology. But it's like when the problem is so obvious and it just doesn't go away, it's like, this is why I'm like, let's see, Sony, if you're going to bring back SOCOM, let's see how you do it. Like, okay. Ubisoft. Did anybody else see how Ubisoft, clearly this is where I hope people are becoming a little bit wiser. Nobody is buying. Nobody is pre-ordering, is what I mean to say. Nobody is pre-ordering the very obvious reskin cash grab that is, what's it called? Rainbow Six Extraction. They actually had to come out here and lower the price to $40 because nobody's pre-ordering it. And I'm like, okay, you're so close, guys. You're so close. I know. They want to get you like, well, hey, we'll lower the price. No, don't buy that game. It is a reskin. It should be DLC. This is what I'm saying. Like, people want to complain about a game like Miles Morales and be like, well, that should just be DLC. Dude, it's an expansion, first of all. And like, that's meaningful. Like, when you spend $40 on Miles Morales, come on, anybody who's played that, you're getting mostly your money's worth. Okay? I can't speak for everybody, but you're getting something meaningful there. You can tell it wasn't just a plain reskin, try to sell you. It's a whole new campaign, all new characters, a whole new story, new abilities, all this stuff. And it makes sense. That's the best part about it, is a game like Miles Morales makes damn good sense. It was the natural progression. People are like, dude, what are they doing? Like, Tom Clancy is literally spinning in his grave, bro. X-Defiance. Gee, come on. See, this is why I'm like, Sony, you're taking your good old time with your multiplayer games that you're making. You're taking your good old time. Sony, please tell me you're taking notes on this trash and knowing what not to do with your franchises if you're going to pursue multiplayer. This is why I appreciate PlayStation Studios, man. And even the people who run it, the people who are not necessarily developers, they seem to have this understanding that you can't just treat this shit like it's a money-making machine. It can make you money. It can be a money-making machine, but you have to respect it for what it is. You have to respect the material. You have to respect what it is that people love about it. You have to treat that with care. And if you're willing to do that, it can be, and this is going to sound, I know it's going to sound mind-blowing to some executives out there, okay? it can be a win-win situation. Isn't that crazy? I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It can be a win-win situation. All you have to do is just listen, pay attention, Don't just have money signs in your eyes all the time. It's crazy, dude. Got a couple super chats. Katie, you're saying Zone sucks, Breakthrough plus Portal are amazing. Brett Williams, you're saying a new Marvel film without the end, but coming soon. JDTV, you're saying, plus they removed the ability to earn XP in Battlefield Portal because people were creating XP farm servers. People are mad right now at DICE. Me too. Look, I'm not trying to say that everything has to be perfection out of the gate, but you can clearly see when it's like, oh, there's just a few things we have to tweak and fine tune. People have a tolerance level where it's like, that's totally fine. But when it becomes clear that, like, guys, you're shit in the bed here, you know what I mean? Like, I try so hard to be positive. I know it doesn't seem like. Be thankful, give thanks, eat pie. But do you see what's so great about this? Yes, we all want to be thankful. We all want to give thanks, but there has to be pie. Okay? If there's no pie, it's a simple formula, people. It's a simple formula. The contextual gamer is saying, I laughed seeing how everyone treated CD Projekt Red and compared to Cyberpunk 2077 to GTA games. They compared them, Then the definitive edition happened, struggling to validate a new game. Yeah, dude. So I'm saying, man. I look, everything I'm saying right now and everything that you're hearing, it's all genuine, man. Like, I really am a gamer through and through, and I have been my whole life. And I don't want to be like the old man yelling at a cloud, and I'm not even that old. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even that old. But it needs to change. Something has to change. Like, I don't understand why more publishers, people wonder why, and I know people are like, oh, here we go, he's bringing in Xbox again, but people are always like, dude, how come you always sound like you're telling, like you want Xbox to copy PlayStation? And I'm like, you know what? It's because everyone should be copying PlayStation. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying make the same exact games, rip off PlayStation. No, look at the standard that PlayStation sets, man. Like, and it's been so consistent. I don't want to say that they never miss, but man, they have been doing a really good job at keeping it consistent and walking the tightrope. Yet, you can't run across the tightrope, man. You'll fall every time. You got to take it slow and respect it. And I feel like that's just not what, like, so many publishers just don't do that. And it's gotten to a point where you're now seeing like indie games and indie devs doing a better job than most AAA publishers, because these are people who actually respect the art for what it is, and they're not developing with a gun behind their head. That's why you see games like Kena Bridge of Spirits, man. There's no mega publisher with a gun to their head. They're just like, let's make a great game, man. And there's a lot of other smaller devs as well that I'm not, dude, nobody, I see like comments like ponies crying because they don't have literally any multiplayer games. Like, dude, that's not, I think you're losing the plot here a little bit. Sony had a gun to their head. They could have, dude. Did Sony have a gun to Ember Lab's head? Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't know. See, it's tough though, because I often talk about how you need to be able to perform under pressure as well. We talk about that as too. Like, I don't want to discount that. We talk about how, like, pressure will make or break you. There needs to be pressure, absolutely, to deliver. You can't just tell a development team, take all the time you need, because they will literally take all of the time. Their game will never come out. There needs to be producers. They're necessary. But the producer doesn't necessarily have to put a gun to somebody's head, metaphorically speaking. You know what I mean? There needs to be pressure applied, but it doesn't have to be put to that extreme. And I feel like the producers are having guns put to their head by the executives who are like, so you're going to make us all that money like now? And it's like, yep, we're making the money now. And then the producers are going down to the devs and are like, come on guys, like you got to get it together. And it's just, you hear the saying like, oh, it's coming in hot. Like, yeah, it's coming in pretty much completely on fire. Look, I understand this stuff is difficult, and I'm not saying that there's a simple, one singular solution to a very complicated problem, but I don't know, man. It's like to me, it's like putting a puzzle together, and you have a timer. Like, you have to get this puzzle complete within this certain time. And it's like, what happens when you get to that point where like the puzzle's not complete, man? Like, we got like 3/4 of this puzzle done. We got like 5 minutes left. This isn't getting done in 5 minutes. You're just going to like say it's done, or maybe just add, another hour to the clock. That's all, time is money, right? Creeping Stage 514, you're saying this sure makes you appreciate Sony. It does, man. And like, it makes you appreciate any publisher, any game developer who actually cares about what they're doing, and it's tough because I get it's business, but everybody has to do their job. And this is almost getting philosophical at this point, but something about people and human nature is if somebody can get away with something, they'll get away with it. Like, they'll want to get away with it. You know what I mean? And that's so important to understand because everybody has to do their job and everybody has to keep everybody else honest. If you don't, somebody will become dishonest. So it's the executive's job to care about the bottom line. That's their job. That's their position. The bottom line. Are we making money? Are we not? Are we in the red? That's their job. But it's also our job as the consumer to communicate that to them. That's the only language they speak. What I'm saying right now doesn't matter to an executive whose job it is to care about the bottom line. What matters to them is, are you buying our stuff or not? And that's why I'm now speaking their language. No, I'm not. I'm not buying your stuff. And collectively, enough people have to come together to be like, no, we're not buying it. So that way the executive, now they know we can't get away with this. You know what I mean? Take-Two Interactive can't get away with rushing this game out. CD Projekt Red can't get away with putting out a completely broken game on console. And it happens sometimes, but man, I don't know, man. How many times can I say, man, I don't know, man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want anybody to think I do know, because if I had the answer, I would just share it with you, but I don't have the answer. Actually, if I had the answer, I'd probably sell it. And there we go. It all comes full circle. No, but it's difficult. It's a process. That's the point. And we all have to try our best to keep each other honest, I say a lot. Wow, this podcast is almost 3 hours long. That's crazy. I had no idea. Okay, let me see. Anthony Perez, you're saying maybe this is why we should be thankful about slow The Last of Us Factions update. Quality takes time. Yeah, no, dude, that's exactly it right there, man. Is I know I've been like coming off as a little bit whiny, like when's Sony going to announce this? When are they going to announce that? When are they going to have new announcements? But it's like, truthfully, I'm only saying that because I feel like I want to have more content on my channel. And that's a selfish thing, and that is in a way kind of greedy, where it's like, I want to be able to talk more about new stuff on my channel. And I understand that and I acknowledge that. But truthfully, I am a gamer, and that's what I want from Sony. Like, Sony, don't listen to me. Sony, like, ignore my cries for new game announcements, and just when it's ready. When it's ready. Okay? And I have no problem with, I know people were complaining because they're like, oh man, we're going to have to wait till like 2023 for Factions. So be it. I do not care. If that's what it takes to get a full finished multiplayer Last of Us game that is content rich and ready to go with the quality bar that we expect from Naughty Dog, so be it. I will wait till 2023. All right? That's how it is. That's just how it has to be. That's how it should be, in my opinion. Space D, you're saying Sony has a long road to be relevant on the multiplayer area, but this is their window. Xbox is set to completely dominate that area this gen. I agree. And you know, what's interesting is, oh, you're asking me about the Kotaku article? Yeah, I'll get to that. This might be a longer podcast because of that. I do want to get to that. And I'm actually probably going to make a separate video out of that article. Maybe. We'll see. But Space D, you're totally right. Like, this is Sony's window of opportunity, and they are seizing it. And I don't think it's a matter of timing. Like, I don't think it's like, well, Sony has to get this multiplayer game out now. No, it's more like they just need to be aware that you have to have multiplayer games in development alongside your single player. They have The Last of Us Factions mode. Insomniac Games is working on a AAA multiplayer game. I remember that Sucker Punch was actually hiring for a multiplayer game. We know that they have partnerships with like Deviation Games, Firewalk, Jade Raymond Studio. These are all multiplayer games. So I think Sony really is basically loading up the shotgun blast of stuff to shoot at the wall and see what, well, maybe that doesn't make sense because we're talking about shooting a shotgun, but just they're basically lining up a bunch of stuff to just throw at the wall and see what sticks. And also Guerrilla Games has a multiplayer game. So they have it lined up, man. It's just a matter of, I think that I'm telling you, Sony will achieve a level. I know you're saying that Xbox is set to completely dominate this area. I'm telling you now, if Sony can achieve the same type of quality, and just level of like detail, I guess, and care with their upcoming multiplayer games, or a lot of them that they have achieved with their single player games, oh man, you're gonna see a new era of PlayStation domination that we've never seen before. But I'm also scared. I got to be honest with you. I'm also scared for that. Like, I'm going to be real right now, guys. I don't want Sony to find their own GTA Online. I don't want Sony to find their own Fortnite. You know, I don't want that, because we know where that road leads. You know, we know where that road leads. And I think I speak for the majority of PlayStation fans, and I say we don't want Sony to go down that road. We really don't. I want Sony to find moderate success with multiplayer. That's what I prefer. Because if they find that gold mine, dude, oh man, it's over. I'm not saying it's over, but I don't know, man. You got to understand, the guy that's in charge right now, Jim Ryan, he does know PlayStation's DNA. He's been there since 1994, since the beginning. Jim Ryan knows PlayStation, but he also knows what his job is, and that is, hey, he's out here to make Sony profitable. So if Jim Ryan discovers, hey guys, I found our own GTA Online in terms of how much revenue we can rake in. I mean, I don't know. Will Sony leave it at that and be like, okay, we'll just maintain that and we'll focus on making single player games? We'll see. That has yet to be discovered. KD, you're saying Xbox better be quiet during this segment because Bethesda was the original Cyberpunk. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I remember Fallout 76 was not pretty when that game launched, dude. Darkborn, do you think Sony should make a multiplayer fighter like Mortal Kombat? Do they own Evo? They do own Evo, and which studio should do it? Yeah, I don't know. I heard rumors that I don't know if there's any truth to these rumors, and I think these were floating around a while ago, that who is the studio that makes Guilty Gear? Arc System War? I forget the name of the studio, but I heard a rumor that Sony was in talks to acquire them. And you would have to imagine that Sony is looking into that because they do own Evo. So I think Arc Systems, yeah. Arc System Works. Okay, so I had it right. I do think Sony is absolutely going to be diverse with their multiplayer offerings, because now that they own Evo, they're very well positioned to be able to, try to let that be something that they can leverage. to leverage the fact that we can, we own Evo, we can very easily inject ourselves and our games into the competitive space, and they want to be a player in that. It's a big area that Sony hasn't really tapped into. Like could we see, in the future, could we see like esports teams formed around games like this Last of Us multiplayer? I don't know. Could we? I don't know. I hate to keep going back to I don't know, but I think it's a possibility. That'd be interesting. What is the Deviation Games? I think people forget, like, Sony's trying to get their own exclusive Call of Duty, guys. Like, I don't know if people know that. Sony is trying to get their own exclusive Call of Duty. Deviation Games, the reason why you might want to pay attention to them is because they are made up mostly of former Call of Duty Black Ops developers, Treyarch. So they're vets, dude. Like, they know how to make a multiplayer game, And so I think that Sony's like, maybe we could get our own Call of Duty. And Firewalk Games as well. I think that's Sony being like, let's try to get our own Destiny, our own Halo. Because you're talking about a bunch of veteran developers who have worked on Halo and Destiny that are at the studio. We'll see. Drive by Joe, does Sony really need to compete in the multiplayer aspect? Excuse me. They have third parties doing the work. Just make sure not to lose it to exclusivity to Xbox. We have to understand that the industry is in a consolidation mode right now. And because of that, I specifically think about Deviation Games, Firewalk, and Haven Studios. 3 brand new veteran studios working on 3 separate multiplayer projects. Sony they locked these studios down and they helped them actually form these studios and funded them because the way Sony sees it is that if one of these 3 studios develops a hit multiplayer game, that's all it takes, man. You just need your own Call of Duty, your own Fortnite, your own GTA Online. Sony wants to get in good with these studios and make sure that they have, like, if let's just say Deviation Games, let's just say they make the new Call of Duty. Just somehow, like, this is the next iteration of this is the next iteration of Call of Duty, and Call of Duty maybe finally doesn't die, but it, you know what I mean? Like what Destiny was to Halo. Let's just say Deviation Games does that with Call of Duty, and suddenly it's a PlayStation exclusive because Sony was smart enough to be like, these guys might be able to do it. And if they do, Sony's so close to them, they funded this game, it's exclusive. We're going to buy you. We're going to buy you now. We own you. And before you know it, boom. I know you guys are saying Sony has Resistance and Killzone. You're right, but you also have to understand that Sony tried with these games, and these games, like, let's just be real, Sony did try to make their own Halo with Killzone. Sony did try to make their own Call of Duty with Resistance per se or SOCOM, but they tried and none of them worked out. I think what we're about to see is a completely new, just, I don't know, man, push from Sony that we've never seen on a level that we've never seen before. So that's what I think. You're saying that those games came out during the PS3 era, and I'm not trying to downplay Killzone. I know Killzone, I think, it's certainly successful for Sony. They made a bunch of games. I'm just saying, like, we can all agree that Sony didn't make Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't make Call of Duty. They didn't make Halo back in the day, right? They didn't make Destiny. But you know that Sony would have absolutely loved. You remember that game Mag? You know, Mag was a good one, man. I think Mag was like Sony being like, maybe we can make our own big multiplayer game, and it just didn't work out. Every multiplayer game is played more on PS4/5. Yeah, and you know what? I think the multiplayer conversation is going to continue on as we get to the last section of this podcast where we talk about the Kotaku article. Darkborn, Sony has at least 10 multiplayer confirmed projects in production and probably 15 plus single player. They own the single player arena now for multiplayer. Exactly. See, Darkborn, you get it. You understand that Sony's like, well, if we're like S rank here, okay, like we have an S rank in this category, maybe we have like a C rank in this category. Let's work to get this up to a B, maybe an A, and maybe one day an S. And then before you know it, you got an S rank in 2 categories. You know what I mean? If you're looking at it that way. And I think that's exactly what Sony's doing. And Darkborn, again, you're saying in like 2017, Sean Layden in an interview actually said PlayStation is looking for their own Destiny type game. It could happen with those games. Yeah, dude, I think Sean Layden, the biggest difference I think between Sean Layden and Jim Ryan is Sean Layden had no problem just saying what it is they're trying to go for. He even was talking about, yeah, we might have to put some of our games on PC. Jim Ryan, this is where the communication is different. There's like no warning. Like Jim Ryan's like, we're just going to do this and we'll let people figure it out on their own until we announce it, you know? And that's just how it is. But it's this podcast is going on for a long time, so let's go to Kotaku. Let's find this Kotaku article. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of reading. Again, I might do a separate video on this, but one last time, guys, before we dive into this article head first, please hit that like button. You guys are definitely killing it today. We're almost at 500 likes, which is awesome. Can we get to 550? I don't know. We only have 580 people here. I'm not sure that's possible, but I appreciate it nonetheless. So this Kotaku article, this was published on Friday at 10:30 a.m. I don't really... Ari Nodis, I don't know if I'm saying their name correctly, but this is the title. I'm going to read it word for word. Brace yourselves. PS5 owners, don't play Sony's first-party games. That's the title. Okay? I mean, right off the bat, let's just call a spade a spade. It's clickbait. All right. It's clickbait. They want clicks. Honestly, it's a great way to get clicks, man. Hate clicks, but clicks nonetheless. That's the title. All right. That's what it says. Let's read what this article says. The article says, it's hard to believe, but a year ago to the date, Sony officially released the PlayStation 5. Well, in the States, globally, it came out on November 19th. Despite serious supply issues, an estimated 13 million players have been able to get their hands on one, and they've used these coveted next-gen consoles to play, cue drumroll, a whole lot of Fortnite. Over on the PlayStation blog this morning, Sony Interactive boss Jim Ryan ran down the top 10 most played PS5 games from the console's first year. Fortnite, a free-to-play game and one of the busiest digital social spaces on the planet, took the top spot. But there are some other surprises. Here's the full list. And so here are the list of top 10 most played games that Sony revealed. Fortnite, number 1. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, number 2. FIFA 21, number 3. NBA 2K21, number 4. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, number 5. Destiny 2, number 6. MLB The Show 21, number 7. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, number 8. Demon's Souls, number 9. And NBA 2K22, number 10. Now, the article isn't done yet, but we have a super chat from Darkborn. Again, you're saying the big suits in the big publishers see the real player count and revenue coming in. They will release content on PS5, possibly more exclusives. Yeah, there's a very interesting conversation we could have about how, isn't it fascinating how, like, I'm surprised more publishers aren't abandoning Xbox. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, abandoning Xbox, because let's just be honest, guys, like, games are not really selling very well on Xbox, and Xbox is in the process of conditioning their fan base to, like, services, subscriptions, not necessarily free content, but, you know, you look at the sales data for game, like third-party multi-plat games, and it's like, Jesus, like, Xbox people are not buying games, man. You know, like, that's just the reality. And I think what's just surprising is that Sony is carving out, they're doubling down on, like, yeah, we want you to buy games. Like, we want you to buy video games. And Microsoft is doing the opposite. Microsoft is, we don't want you to buy video games. Subscribe. And you would just think that most third-party publishers, it's still in their best interest to try to get people to buy their video games at full price. So it's super interesting to see that. Waleed Saeed, you're saying, hi, MBG, I'm absolutely hyped for PSVR 2. It's the primary reason for me to get a PS5, and I can't wait for it. I love PSVR 1, Racket Fury, Crisis, Brigade. I don't know if I'm saying that. Maybe Brigade, if that's what you meant to say. But yeah, dude, let's see. Like, when's Sony going to talk about PSVR 2? Is it going to happen before the end of the year? Stay tuned to find out. That's what I'm going to be doing. I hope they do. That'd be great. I'm very excited for it too. It'll be brand new to me. That's why I'm so excited. Darkborn, again, you're saying I said it a year ago. The Series S and lower player count, along with less sales, will devastate the Xbox ecosystem. Indies will flock to PlayStation. Yeah, I think let's see what happens, man, because I think that the more Microsoft leans into Game Pass, the more rapidly we might see the entire landscape shift, for better or for worse. We'll see what happens. There might be some truth to what you're saying, but we have to see it play out. Continuing with this joke of an article, some caveats. The ranking is based on I can't say this word, total hours played across the player base, not on total number of players. So that's total time, not necessarily people playing the game. According to Jim Ryan, PS5 players clocked in a total of 4.6 billion hours. Data is also tallied from November 12th, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, precluding some big late September or early October releases from making the cut. Of course, games like Kingdom Bridge of Spirits or Deathloop likely wouldn't rank. Both are largely single player and not designed to command hundreds of hours of attention from now till the end of days. But it's not hard to picture cooperative zombie shooter Back 4 Blood, the second best-selling game of October per NPD data on here. I'll confess to some surprise at the absence of PS5 exclusives here. On the top 10, just 3 first-party games, Demon's Souls, MLB The Show 21, and Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, cracked the ranks. 2 were available at launch, and on the full list, only Demon's Souls is available exclusively on PS5. In the past year, Sony released 2 stellar PS5 exclusives, Returnal and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. So I will admit, at least the article writer is giving credit where it's due. Yes, I agree, they're very good releases. Yes, both are one-offs, but I personally did not expect so many people to clamor for a PS5 PS5 only to use it to play games they can play anywhere else. You know what's not a surprise though? The inclusion of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, an open world game that never freaking ends. Fun fact, my current save file is responsible for 4.5 billion of those. Okay, that's just, he's being hyperbolic, or this person is being hyperbolic. Okay, so look, I mean, I would suplex this article and the article writer, but there's no reason to, because it's just so painfully obvious what they're doing here. They're just gaslighting, man. Like, you know, the title of the article, again, is PS5 owners don't play Sony's first-party games. It's a literal, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's a literal lie. It's a literal lie. And what this article should say, the title should say something along the lines of, it seems like PlayStation players don't play as many first-party games as you would have thought. And even that is disingenuous, because let me tell you something about this top 10 list, okay, that this article writer is not saying, and that a lot of people, dude, I swear to God, I saw on Twitter a bunch of Xbox fanboys throwing this top 10 list around and trying to use it as some kind of weird ammunition about, like, PlayStation gamers don't play. I'm like, just shut the F up, man. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me tell you what the most shocking thing of this list is. I'll tell you right now, it's not the fact that Fortnite, Call of Duty, and sports games, as well as Destiny 2 and Assassin's Creed, it's not the fact that they are on the top 10. That's not shocking at all. That's the least shocking thing about this list. Demon's Souls is number 9 on the top 10 list of most played games on PS5. That should tell you all you need to know. If anything, that highlights the literal opposite of what this article is trying to point out and what these ridiculous fanboys are trying to highlight. They're trying to make it sound like, oh, yeah, you know, PS5 players, they're buying PS5s to play Fortnite and Call of Duty, you know, multiplayer-driven games that are literally psychologically designed to get you hooked on the game. The last time I checked, Demon's Souls is the exact opposite of that. And Blue Point Games is now a first-party studio. So the title of this headline, or the title of this article is complete bullshit. All right. Like, people are out here playing Demon Souls way more than you ever would have thought they would have. And it's a difficult game, man. It's not a multiplayer game. It's not a game that's trying to get you hooked on it with microtransactions. It's a single player, brutal game. I mean, if I had to guess why that game is on the top 10 list, it's probably because people are dying over and over again and they have to rinse and repeat to get through. But I know you guys know this. Like, this is, I'm not saying anything that isn't painfully obvious, but even putting Demon Souls aside, Spider-Man being on there is also impressive when you consider that Miles Morales is not a full-fledged AAA single-player game. It's shorter and it's cheaper, but it's also shorter than Spider-Man 2018. And what it tells you is that people are playing that game a lot. You know, I can't believe Demon Souls is right behind Spider-Man. Like, I gotta say, I did not expect Demon Souls to be on this list. Spider-Man is less surprising because it's Spider-Man, okay? It's Spider-Man. It makes sense that it would be there to some extent. And even MLB The Show 21, you know, again, it's another first-party game, but it's also a sports game. So that's why I think the highlight here, this title, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to change the title of this article, okay? And maybe it wouldn't get as many clicks, but, and I get it. Like, trust me, I rely on clicks as well. I get it. But let's just be honest here. The title of this article should be something along the lines of Sony's top 10 most played PS5 games list revealed, reveals shocking detail about Demon Souls, or about, you know, that, like, the point is that the focus should be on the fact that Demon Souls is on this list. That I think about how many games are available to play on the PS5 right now. There's over 360 games available to play on the PS5. Okay. And there's a lot of multiplayer games. There's a lot of games that are fighting for your time. And Demon Souls beat all of those games to make it to the number 9 spot. Did anybody really ever expect Demon Souls to beat Fortnite? Or even Spider-Man to beat Fortnite? To beat Call of Duty? To beat sports games? Destiny 2, I gotta say, I'm impressed by Destiny 2. That game is hanging on in a good way. Like, I mean, it's really... I thought that Spider-Man maybe could have beat Destiny 2. So Destiny 2 still has a thriving player base that puts a lot of time into it. I mean, come on, man. You know, come on. You know, that's it. It's a joke of an article. It doesn't make any sense. You know, why? Why do it? Why do this? Why generate these hate clicks? Why continue to feed these moronic fanboys who are all over Twitter, all over YouTube, that just literally say dumb stuff and get away with it? Why are you're helping feed that? You're helping justify that, and you don't do that. I know. I'll hear like, dude, it's Kotaku. Like, I know. It's Kotaku. You're saying he wasn't lying though? Dude, come on, man. It is a lie, man. It's a literal lie. Like, PS5, like, dude, PS5 owners don't play Sony's first-party games. I mean, I may as well make a headline regarding... How about I make a video where I make the headline, Xbox players only play Forza? I could justify that. Well, I mean, look, that's all they're talking about. They had 8+ million players, so clearly that's all they care about. That's all they play. But they didn't... Xbox players didn't buy Sunset Overdrive. They didn't buy, you know, what, Quantum Break. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There's more to it than that. Do it. Make the video. All right, guys. I've been going for way too long. I got a couple super chats. Shane Ramsey, you're saying 2022 will be a strong year for Sony with Forspoken and GT. Oh, dude, I keep forgetting about Forspoken, bro. I keep talking about Sony's 2022 lineup with for Horizon Forbidden West. There's Sifu too. Sifu, Horizon Forbidden West, GT7, God of War Ragnarok. I totally forget to put Forspoken in there. That's going to be huge, man, for sure. The Contextual Gamer is saying, wait, The fact that people felt the need to get a PS5 and continue to play the same games solidifies the console's appeal was strong enough on its own. Yeah, I mean, dude, to me, it reminds me of people who are talking about how well the Xbox Series X is selling, even though games are available on PC, and Microsoft didn't really have they pretty much had a non-existent launch lineup. It just turns out that like sometimes people can just see the console itself and what it's offering for the price point a big enough of a reason to justify the upgrade. But come on, man. Like, look at how well Sony's first-party games sell. You know people, dude, PlayStation players and PS5 owners are buying first-party games. They are playing Sony's exclusives. That's a fact. All right? Just because they're not out here beating games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. I mean, how delusional would you have to be? Did you expect Demon's Souls to be number one? I mean, come on. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about the industry if you thought Demon's Souls was going to be number one. Oh yeah, Ghostwire Tokyo as well. That's crazy. Ghostwire Tokyo is a Bethesda game. And that's a Microsoft owned game that's going to launch in 2022, and it's probably not going to be available on Xbox till sometime in 2023. That's insane. February equals pockets empty. Absolutely. Brett Williams is saying, let's see the most played list on Xbox. Dude, that's the thing. You probably wouldn't see a single first party title, a single exclusive in that top 10. Maybe one, but I don't know, man. You certainly wouldn't see a single player game from Microsoft on that list. I'll tell you that. Okay. Darkborn, I'm waiting for the 2022 PlayStation Spring game releases so we can see what actually was supposed to release next year. We don't know what was for next year. I agree. Like we only know about Spider-Man 2 for 2023. That's pretty much all we know. Space D, you're saying basically a small amount played Ratchet and Clank, Returnal, etc. Well, okay, so I'll highlight this last part of the article. They're basically saying, oh, I thought Returnal would be on there. I thought Ratchet and Clank. I didn't. I'm going to be honest. Like, Returnal is a game that you can easily dump a lot of time into, but Returnal is not for everyone, man. I'm just being real. Like, Returnal didn't sell as well, anywhere near as well as Demon's Souls. And you could say, well, Demon's Souls isn't for everybody either, but yeah, it's a From Software game. It's a Souls game. It was always going to sell well. It's why Sony wanted it at the launch of the PS5. It was guaranteed to move units for the core PlayStation fan base. But Returnal, it's a hardcore, unforgiving roguelite, that it's just from a studio that, I'm going to be honest, at the time, Housemarque wasn't proven as a AAA studio. They proved it with the release of Returnal, but that's why. Ratchet and Clank, I think it's obvious why Ratchet and Clank. I'm just going to be real. Like, this isn't a negative towards Ratchet and Clank. It's just the truth. There's no replayability with Ratchet and Clank. There just isn't. And I say that as somebody who paid $70 for the game, enjoyed it, and platinumed it. But when I got that platinum, there was very little reason for me to continue playing Ratchet and Clank. I think that's fair to say. There's way more replayability in a game like Demon's Souls than a game like Ratchet and Clank. So, if there was like a multiplayer aspect to Returnal or Ratchet and Clank, maybe they would be on this list. In fact, they probably would be. But yeah. All right, guys. This is, I think, the longest podcast I've ever done, almost 3.5 hours. So I'm going to have to end it here because I'm very hungry and I'm losing my voice at this point. But I had a good time, man. I don't know about you. I felt like the energy was higher today. I feel like I brought the energy today. And I don't know why. I was feeling it. And I think it made for, I could be wrong. I think it made for a good podcast. I enjoyed it. Oh, you know what? I do apologize as well. I want to, before I go, I have to do my end of the podcast apology. So we talked about the PS5's first year, how it stacked up against the PS4 and Xbox Series X, so we can check that off. I talked about the GTA Trilogy disaster. There's two things here. Oh man, there's a lot of things. I'm going to have to alter this. I talked briefly about Elden Ring, but I didn't have much to say. I didn't even talk about the Game Awards. Well, I guess technically we did a little bit about like some stuff Sony could reveal. So I didn't really talk much about that, but I guess maybe because there isn't too much to say. I didn't talk about New Horizon details at all. So I'm going to have to delete that. I didn't talk about that. I'll just leave it as it is. All right, but all in all, I think it was good. I think it was good. I enjoyed the podcast. I had a good time. I mean, I can't do a podcast for 3.5 hours if I'm not having a good time doing it. So, my son is yelling for me. He's like, end your podcast. You're saying eat before your next podcast, please. I did this time. Maybe that was the difference maker. I did eat before the podcast. So, all right, guys, on your way out, just hit the like button for me. I also want to give a big thank you to everybody who donated a super chat. KD, you're saying co-op would have been amazing in Returnal. I agree. Maybe for the sequel, if we get one. But I want to give a big thank you to everybody who is a channel member. Those of you who just watched, leave likes. It helps. But especially those of you who are, super chatting me and helping keeping this channel alive and thriving. Genuinely really appreciate it. Can't thank you enough. So that's episode 83 in the books. I will be back here next week, same time, same place, with episode 84. And it'll be interesting to see what topics we may have to talk about next week. So that does it. I will catch you all in probably a video tomorrow. Probably do a video. So I'll see you then. Take care, guys.